Rahubat, Rahubat. Greetings. I hope all are doing well. Welcome to the Actual Facts Podcast. It is a pleasure as usual. Let me handle something with this camera real quick. I appreciate all joining and tuning in. I am Dr. Duswa York. I hope I can be heard. I hope I'm clear. Thank you for the support. Thank you for joining us. In this episode 15, wow, we're at episode 15. This episode is called Original Creation. And Rahubat, yeah, okay, I'm heard. Okay, thank you for tuning in. People are coming in the chats. You know how we do. We share and make sure that all are tuning in, and those that have been waiting for this episode. Now, we have been getting some great questions. Of course, the Actual Facts Podcast is moving at a rapid pace. We have a lot of information to give you all today. There was a lot of preparation that went into this Actual Facts and this particular podcast, because this information that we will be presenting, one, has never been heard before. It's never been given to the planet, because the so-called authors and authorities that write particular books, historical publications, and things that we make reference to, most of the world, the education system, they were not around when this took place. And original creation is a topic that only the deities that were involved with this creation system, or this phenomenon, can explain. And fortunately for us, we have with us in this day and time a being who has bestowed just a small portion of his 76 trillion years of knowledge and the numerous publications, 1,500 to be exact, right? And a series of books, one known as the Actual Facts series, Patrak series. There's a numerous other extraterrestrial series. He's written volumes of series as it pertains to different topics and subjects that people have questioned the master teacher about for the last 40 or 50 years. And even still, in his situation, in his kidnapping, right, where they have tried to silence his pen, he still illuminates the world with this incredible knowledge and information to help liberate and free the Nagardanadu, the African race. So our job here is to make sure that we disseminate and give this information to the world, particularly the African people, because it's our doctrine. It's not exclusive to us, but it's a liberating doctrine for us, because our story has been lost in volumes of books written by other races and other people, and therefore our story has never been told. So we're blessed to be able to tell our story and give explanations to and answers to questions that our people have had for the last 6,000 years. And this is our job here on the Actual Facts Podcast. So I appreciate you all tuning in. One thing of this topic, original creation, is there are no reference books that you can go outside of this doctrine to find or to confirm. And so other texts that we make reference to, yes, you can look these uh, certain information up, but when it comes to our story in ancient Makmat, Egypt, Sudan, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Yemen, the land of the Sabaeans, Nuwapia, or as Nuwaupians, we're going to discuss that. As you can see, we have a flag that has been introduced and given to us by our father that has people asking questions about the symbolism on it, the religious symbols that that are there, that are familiar to some and not familiar to others. Those and that will be explained so people can be aware of the let's say method that Dr. Malachi Z.K. York Panabab Yanun had when he came to this planet and found his people and lost religious doctrines, how he had to, with methodology, a certain formula in order to raise us up, had to give us bits of information that we were asking as it relates to religious doctrine, because that's all we knew. And we were given outside information and definitions and text translations, misinterpretations from other people, never from our perspective. So fortunately, we have that, and we're going to go through that. You can see the symbol there. This is the one of our great seals, a seal of the ever living. You'll see the sun in the background. You see the crescent. You'll see the Ankhtui, the double resurrection symbol in the middle. You also see that on my neck. And these are basic things for those that are new to our doctrine and new to our nation, that will be original nation, original creation from original creation will be given to you, and the information will be, we'll do our best to answer those questions, to clear up any confusion about what religious doctrine that we adhere to. Because when you look at these new symbols that the Father has given us, you'll see NIH, which is Nubian Islamic Hebrews. Now, some people say, wow, we just had some let's say, yeah, I was trying to get the focus right. We just had questions, or the let's say episodes about the religious doctrines. We just did episode 12, 13, and 14 relating to the Christianity, the crucifixion of Christianity. Check out those episodes. They're incredible. The Yahweh of the Bible, the bloodthirst of this being, and also the ugly face of Islam, where we address those monotheistic religious doctrines. But be mindful that when we address these doctrines, it's addressing how they were reintroduced to us as a people, how they were reintroduced to Africans of the diaspora, Africans of the Western Hemisphere, and how it was forced upon Africans on the continent. And because His Excellency Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, the president of the Nuwaupian nation, and in raising his people, he actually had to bring in 1970, he introduced the Nubian Islamic Hebrews in order to gather or garner the attention of people that were religious, that was lost in the Arab doctrines of Islam, that were lost in the Greek and Roman doctrines of Christianity, that were lost in the monotheistic adherence to the Mesopotamian doctrine of Mosesism from Abraham, introducing the covenant with this particular being, Yahweh of the Torah. And so in order to dispel the misinformation, he had to speak to them on a level in which they would pay attention. So you often see in the older schools of thought, and where people, you hear people say, well, Dr. Malachi York, he was a Hebrew this year, and he was a Muslim this year, and he was a Christian or a reverend at this time. Well, in order to save a people, right, and you have to go through what they've been through in order for them to, in order for you to identify with them and them to pay attention and identify with you. You can't, let's say, help an alcoholic if you've never experienced what it is to be an alcoholic, what it is to have withdrawals, or a drug addict, or any type of person that's been through some trauma and abuse, the same abuse and trauma that Africans across the globe has been going through under the spell and the forced religious doctrines from other races that has suppressed them and oppressed them and kept them under the footstool. You have to reach them at the level. And so when the Father, coming from, born in Takoradi, Ghana, right, which we're airing from right now, this is where the podcast is, and coming to the Americas at a young age to raise the people of the West, he came there for 40 years, 30 years to teach. Now the doctrine in a 360, let's say 24,000 year renewal cycle, when you're looking at this double resurrection here, the double resurrection of the mentally dead, the African race on the continent will be blessed to receive this affirmation. And they are, in our people here are in a position where they've been clouded by religious doctrines as well, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. And so us, as using our flag and our symbol to get the attention of the Muslims, to get the attention of the Jews, to let them know the things that we have been taught from them, from other races, right, was taken from us. There is an original Islamic, or let's say Islamic state of mind. There is, by the etymological root of the word, there is a group of people who were or are considered Hebrews by the verb or the act of traveling or transversing across specific lands, which we know we have migrated from the east to the west all over the continent. There's many records of migratory maps and tribes moving from the east of Africa down from Egypt into Sudan to prevent themselves from mixing in with other races. When invaders came in, they migrated west, or they crossed over specific lands, which would rightfully make them Hebrews, not by the definition of what the Judaic religious world has reintroduced it to blacks. This is not what we're talking. This is not what the Father is speaking of when he says Nuwaupian Islamic Hebrews. Nuwapu, and we'll get into what Nuwapu is for those that have heard the word, but is, just coming into the knowledge. You have to be aware of what a Nuwaupian is and how Nuwaupians think and what is the exact science that we practice by natural nature. And this is what you have to be retaught. And in that, the only one being of your ancestral line, who beings, your deities, who you will learn about, right? The majestic ones, the Enneads, the Ogdoads, which we, as promised, we told on this, right, in this episode, that we would introduce or teach people about your deities that's responsible for your creation, that's responsible for your physical body, your mind, your akal, your spirit, your soul, your ba'ah, and other aspects of your seven principles of your body, right? You'll learn how your creators or deities were responsible for bringing this creation or this material world into existence from the etheric realm. And this is what original creation is about. And again, it has never been taught unless you've read it, obviously through the master teachers, the publications that we'll go over. Now, as we always do, I'm going to just give you brief what books that we're going to be making reference to. Now, this is a series of actual facts that you can, after the podcast or after the show, you can find out how to obtain them by emailing us in the description. One of these books is this is called, right, The Birth of Earth and the Matrix. As you can see, this is a master secret. This speaks about the matrix of the planet and the birth of the planet, and we'll make reference to this. This is master secret, actually number 1. So I suggest people request this if this is something that you want to read. After you hear the references in and the sources of the information, I'm showing you what books that we got the sources that we got it from. This also is Fatir al-Ak Nashat, which is natural ether energy. This is a profound actual fact. The Father makes, let me try to get it in view, right? It's a kind of like a glare. Okay, yeah, there it is. Natural ether energy. This is profound. This talks about the true creators and what it is, and it speaks about reasoning, which you all were born to use. Reasoning. This is what was lost. This is why you have to be introduced to what was original to you. No one else can do that. You have to rely on your ancestors to reintroduce, and this is what the Father has incarnated to give us, what your true religious, let's say, adherence to, which is animism, which is, we'll address what animism is, the oldest spiritual practice in the world. All cultures and indigenous people practice animism, which birthed all of the other religious doctrines, and also existence, how and why. This is another publication that's incredible, called Existence, How and Why, one of the most profound actual facts. This is available, actual facts number 36. Also, we have The Secret Tones and the Mafkuzet Elixir of Life. This book is Patarak, actually not Patarak, series number 5, where it's a little glare. Sorry about the glare, but it's available. You'll see this is The Secret of Tones and the Mafkuzet Elixir of Life. Pakadash Shalel Nagam at Wu Pa Mafkuzet. That's Sabbatic that you hear, the language you hear of Nuwapic, of Nuwaupians, right? You are all Nuwaupians that are tuning in, and I'll tell you how you are Nuwaupians. You don't know it yet. And this is intelligent design, right? Divine design or plot of aliens. Now, this is number 46. This is filled with so much affirmation. I don't know if any of you are, it's so much that the Father's written, and he's written these in while he's in bondage. This is the type of being that is dedicated to the mission of raising you all. So don't take this knowledge as something that's invaluable. It's very valuable. He sitting in a cell almost sometimes without half a pen because of the conditions by which they have incarcerated him. He's written these books under these conditions to give us these actual facts. This one is Zahuti's vision. This is number 10. This actually goes into the creation of the universe, and the universe is the 9 orbs, let's say, that have been carved out of the universe to create the 9 multiverses that exist, that this universe was born out of. And last but not least, this is the fables of Yanun. And the reason this is not an actual fact, but it's just fables that the Father's written with some very profound wisdom in there, right? So keep in mind that these are available for those that would like them, and we'll get into this original creation. Now, please share so we can start. Now, this original creation, right? This original creation is the creation of the multiverses that exist today, this universe that exists, that you exist in, that has predates time, it predates records, it predates anything any human being on the planet can give you. I said human being, not supreme being. There are supreme beings or etheric beings that incarnate to teach and give wisdom, that give you access to the mental abode for you to overstand your existence pre-Bible, pre-Quran, and pre-even writing of human beings. And these beings are responsible for the manifestation of the material world, right? As you know it today, the physical planet as you know it today, the sun as you know it today, the various planetary bodies as you know it today. And these beings have various characteristics, typically known from an etheric perspective, which is something that human beings are not able to overstand at this moment because of your three-dimensional world that you live in, and in a physical body confined by person, place, and thing, which are your three-dimensional world that most human beings operate in, and everything is in a specific form. This is why this is out form. This is out formation. Original creation began before the form of the material world, and that is this before time exists. Now, how people may want to know, how is it before time? Well, time is created by what you would call physical bodies, material bodies, right? The planet, the sun, your earth, the solar system has time belts that are governed by the rotation or the revolution of the planets around the sun, which gives you a specific year. Also, the rotation on an axis, the planet gives you your days, right? And so this day, 24 hours, 24,000 years, this planet was designed on a 24-year scope. 12 deities from male and female from the specific star systems of Orion and Sirius were responsible for the creation in a 24 period measurement, which creates 24 perfections for you in a 24,000 year cycle. This is why you have 24,000 time zones. And in that, the prior to the manifestation or the birth of the planet, the birth of the sun, there is an etheric world that exists within what you call dark matter, or a area of existence that is before the atom that we know it today. The discovery of an atom is just recent, the last 150 years. So the molecular world or the atomic world is a fairly new existence or science to what humans have been able to uncover, like in these last few centuries. So they're just now uncovering this abode, but this abode has always existed. The ancients, we know in Wusabat, in our doctrine, the Father teaches, is known as the existence of all things, material and immaterial, is Pa'ut, is called the all. Now, the concept of all is something that it outdates religion. Religion is, let's put that aside for a second. The all is everything in existence dead or alive, breathing, not breathing, what you can see, what's unseen. It consists of all of your gods, all of your extraterrestrial beings. It consists of all matter, living and dead, all spiritual beings that have incarnated, that are thousands and millions of years old or trillions of years old, and beings who are relatively new. It consists of all of your worlds, all of your universes, all of the energy within existence exists within Pa'ut, or within all, or in all. Now, we have to be mindful as the Father teaches us on how we express this concept, because the mind, human beings have been taught that everything exists within something, right? Yes, in a sense, but all is not a something. It's not a thing. It's consists of things, but it's not a thing. Meaning it doesn't merely consist of things summing up to a particular object. It also consists of things that are not numbered or no thing, right? And when you say no thing, you're saying that human beings, right, because of your limitations, everything has a zero reference for you, because you're reading definitions and books from scientists who uncovered these things, and they say, well, this is what we found, and we pass it on to you, and then you say, oh, okay, that makes sense, or oh, okay, well, yeah, I understand now. But his definitions do not predetermine, or not, let's say, it's not a prerequisite for what exists before before his existence. Races have come into existence. These human beings that are responsible for writing these books have a zero time reference. So what came before that? So when the Father's introducing the concept of the all, one thing he did make clear is that when we were asking this question about the all and the original creation, he explained that things happen within all, and creating let's say mechanisms or creation cycles or time happens within all. And so there is no starting point within all or in all. Things start in all, right? So the mind goes to, well, okay, so all is the creator. That's not what the concept of Pa'ut is. All is everything in existence before creation and after the existence of death, or the existence of the cycle of death, or the recycling of matter. All Everything exists within this particular cycle. And when in order to explain it, this is the best way. He said the only way I can explain it to human beings was he drew a circle on the board, a round circle, and he said, this is all. He drew the circle and then he erased it. And erasing the circle, he said that is the concept of all. The best way I can explain while you're being confined, because you would want to define this. What is this all concept, right? To say, okay, I understand what it is, but it's more than what you can overstand. It's more than what you think you can comprehend, because there's abodes and existences within all that are outside the grasp of human beings, because you're not at your fullest capacity, because you have limited brain processing, that because of the lack of mafkuzet and other monatomic elements that's in your body that will allow you to compute that information or affirmation about Pa'ut in that level. But you're getting there, and this doctrine will elevate human beings enough to where you'll be able to grasp it. So the Father explained that in that way, in Pa'ut, or the all. Now within all, there's a group of beings in the etheric realm, right, known, that are responsible for tones, vibrations, and frequencies, because this is what the material world is made of. When you look at the creation and you look at the material world, things, every material matter, every atom, every DNA, every substance, every periodic table has a vibrational frequency or nutational rate that gives off a certain frequency that emits a sound. Also, it emits a color, right? Even colors have a barcode. Colors have DNA that is transmitted to the eye. This is why you're able to read it. It's literally a frequency, and it literally has a sound. There is a science that human beings have, not have, that understands where human beings actually can hear color. Certain individuals have this phenomena where they can hear specific colors because the frequency it gives off, they can detect it within their even visual, and their neuropeptides within their brain can, let's say, because of the frequency, can generate a certain sound, which creates a certain friction, which gives off a certain, emits a color. And sound and color are very, they work parallel within this material world. And that's why anything that you listen to close enough with the microscope, not microscope, there's a hearing apparatus that can allows you to hear it within cells, hear it within DNA. You'll see it all gives off a vibration. Well, these beings that are responsible for this tone, there are these 8 octave beings. They're known as Muftaru. These are your Ogdoads. And they're your 8 frequency beings that are responsible for the harmonic um, vibrational matter that brings things into the material world where you can comprehend, and it manifests from the etheric world into the material world. And these beings are connected to you because they were grown or manifested. Let's say this, not grown. They grew the material world, and out of these 8 beings, these Abduad, you see them on the walls of Mehmet, and their names are within the text, right? You'll see giving birth to the Enneads, which are your 9, and these 9 are the material manifestation or principles of the material world that predates all religion and predates even natural nature, the physical manifestation. Atum is the father. This is Tafafnatat, coming out of Atum, giving birth to Tufnut and Shu, right? These are twin deities. Natat or Natatat, which is Nut, right? And Sabab or Geb, which is earth, right? Then you have Osiris, Isis, Seth, and Nephis. These are our deities that is responsible for this particular, the growth of this universe. Now, this is fairly new to people, right? For those that are not familiar with this creation story, but it has to be taught because people are asking about it. So when you look at the beings, the Enneads, or the original 9 species grown out of one, this being was grown out of, these beings were grown out of one, who we just made reference to, which was Atum, right? They were grown out of this one being, which is, right, what they call the mind, the mental abode. This is the conscious this is the conscious mind that the religious world and the esoteric world and other let's say ideologies or whatever, let's say indigenous cultures that teach about the conscious existence of this higher mind or this being. What they don't tell you is that this being is identified as Atum. And this mind, this being Atum, gives birth through reasoning through other conscious beings that are born out of it. The same way, representing the sun as a conscious thinking being gives birth to other bodies or planets, or let's say conscious beings such as yourself, as some people born out of this being. The sun gives that consciousness, but that sun has unique and differentiated characteristics that are everlasting, because in its existence, it's responsible for giving the source of this life and conscious existence to all life on the planet. And this natural phenomenon takes place in many, many cycles over and over and over again within Pa'ut, within all. Well, the being that is responsible or is known as Atum Reye, right, manifest these other 8 out of itself and born out of its physical, out of the mind of this being, which is spoken of in Zahuti's vision, which we'll go over, birth these 9: Atum, Tefnut, Shu, Nut, Geb, Isis, and Nephis. This is found in Intelligent Design. Intelligent Design says in verse 548, it says the original or first humanoids were grown on planet Earth, were flesh and blood beings grown by deities called Natharu, overseers. These are your principal beings or principal deities that exist within Nun, right? Nun is the primordial abyss, or the abode, which looks as though it's empty, but it actually has a secret matter dark matter that exists within it, and they is represented in ancient Egypt in these three bowls. When you see three bowls in Egypt, these three bowls represent primordial and primordial existences, and it's a fabric of this of space. When you look at space, it looks void and empty. However, all of the ancients knew that within this primordial space there was matter, energy that was able to manifest the material world, which you see as the universe today. And this is what the intelligent design speaks about. It says the original, right, the original first humanoids grown on the planet Earth, right, were flesh and blood beings grown by deities called Panathartu, who originated here from Orion, from Sabatat Sirius star system into the Mayet waters, then unto Sakat land. So they placed the seed of these deities within the waters of the planet, because life itself within natural nature is placed in the seed or the great abyss of the waters of space, which is duplicated in nature, right, through the feminine, born in the womb of the waters of the feminine, and birth as an orb, the same way space births orbs and suns and planets. They birth orbs out of space. The magic happens in the darkness of Nun, which you're not aware of. And this is where the mind of Atum, the great deity, right, of the heading the Enneads, right, from the Ogdoads, which were your vibrational beings, your eight, right, which is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. When you hear those tones, that creates a harmony. Everything in existence has this sound vibration that manifests itself, and depending on the vibration, the density level, it becomes various densities that creates the physical abode. That's why you have on a periodic table, you have very hard density like bone and iron, and then you have less dense like your skin, and less dense, which is your liquid, the blood, and even less dense, which is air. These are all density levels manifested from vibrations that are replicas or blueprinted out of the spiritual abode that our ancestors are responsible for natural nature. And we acknowledge these principles because you are connected to them through your endocrine system, which are your glands that line up within your chakras. They call them the chakras. They don't know why these seats light up. These seats light up. Hey, testing, test. I'm back. Can you hear me? Okay, great. All right. So how long were we out? Wow, we were out for some time. Okay. So where did I leave off? Let's get back to where we started. Okay, great. So now, some things happen. So I'm glad everyone. So just ping everyone back in, let them know we're back on. So we are back. Let's continue where we left off. Because I was talking about the endocrine system, right? So the endocrine system, which is the chakras that, right? Oh, why the chakras light up? So the chakras light up because you are connected to this etheric abode through the endocrine system. And this is spoken of in the intelligent design, right? Now, when you read intelligent design, let's go to verse that's 549. 549 says this. Actually, it's in natural ether energy. But let's move forward because I'm going to touch on that. I didn't want to go too far because I'm trying to keep it in context so people can follow along. When you see this this chakras lighting up, Africans or the supreme beings, we have 9. Most other races have 6, some have 7. It just depends on the DNA structure or matrix by which the etheric abode by which that physical form was designed after. Your physical form was designed from the etheric beings of your ancestors. Every race physical form is designed from a specific matrix that is responsible for the growth. It's called epigenetics, for the growth of that race or of that people in a specific form. Now, when it comes to the Enneads and the Ogdoads, and I was speaking about the Ogdoad, the vibrational beings that's responsible for tones frequencies and vibrations and a manifestation of the material world, and which appears to be solid. That's what we want to touch on. It's not solid. The material world is not as solid as you think. It is by certain vibration, depending on the strength of the vibration, creates a bond through molecular structures that looks as though it's hard or it's solid, but that's not the case. Just like iron is not solid. If you look at an instrument through an instrument with a high enough microscopic, let's say, the word I'm looking for, where the view is exposed. The word I'm looking for, it turns up the vision of it is multiplied. Yeah, I don't know why that word was difficult to find. When it's multiplied to like 1,000%, then you can see the molecular structure and how it actually is not as solid. Well, your body is not solid either. With a high instrument that can look through molecular structure, you can see that there's just a bunch of densities in particular areas of your organs that's responsible for having a cohesive lock or bond through magnetism. And magnetism is what creates the appearance that things are stuck together. This is why you have centrifugal and centripetal forces. The Father taught this in the science of creation, how the pushing and pulling magnetism, which is electricity, creates what looks like a solid form of material matter, which is all an illusion. Now, this beings that that the Father speaks about, your ancestors, they being grown on the planet, was responsible for seeding you in the water and being born on the planet. And as deities, you were initially born as hermaphrodites or hemorphidites, or not. Let me not say hermaphrodites and hemorphidites. Let me say you had 7 types of human beings with various chromosomal structure that predates the X and Y genetic structure that you have today. It was actually XY, XXY, XYX, YXX, and you had the variables within YYY, YXY, XYY, right? XYX. You had those variables which reached up to 7. Now you have what you call yes, email me for those questions. Anyone that someone can put the email. I need to make someone maybe a moderator so you can help assist people that are asking questions while we're in the lecture about the emails and getting this information. But we do have information for you. We're in Africa, so we're all over Africa. And this is why you see the flags and the symbols, because the Father is teaching, that is coming to the continent. This doctrine is being emitted, or let's say transmitted, from West Africa, where the conscious grid or the energy, but which is interesting you asked about Egypt, it shifted from Egypt to West Africa. The energy grid that you see in Egypt, where our ancestors descended into that land, actually in Botswana, they left their seed there. They left their seed, and it moved up into ancient Sudan and ancient Egypt. And these are the pre-dynastic Fataites, who are the ancient pygmies coming from the sands, who range from light skin to very dark, and they have various hues and shades. But this is the seed of Panatharu that was introduced on the planet. This is an original creation. And so what happens is this seed that was introduced into Africa. Now, I'm not talking about, let's say this, original creation also is included and inclusive of the earth being created, which happened billions of years ago. We're touching at a specific time frame where the planet was already here, and the growth of the planet was already pre-designed by our etheric ancestors in the spirit world. It already had a design, and that design was born out of the sun. When people ask how was the sun, well, the planets created, well, the planets were shot off by the sun, and it was captured within its etheric orbit, right? Etheric orbit, or the etheric pool of the ethers of the sun. The sun has an etheric energy that surrounds it. It's the same way you have an aura that surrounds you. And the same way things can be trapped in a person's aura or captured in the aura, right? A positive energy and aura creates or organizes the organisms and societies. So when you have a society that's organized from the top or the head ether, which is the sun or the head of a nation, which our president as the head of a nation, as the son of righteous, right? That mental ether that he emanates the same as the sun does, it allows anything within its orbit or its conscious vibrational pull to become orderly and in fashion within the commands of the etheric conscious mind of that deity or of that being. The sun is a being. The sun has the sun has a conscious mind that is responsible for organizing this solar system in such a way that when this planet was conceived out of the darkness of space and through the seeding of panspermia, which is the DNA from meteorites coming down to the planet and seeding and breeding. This is how life is brought to certain planets. You don't know this because they don't teach this in religion. Religious doctrines have no idea how life is brought to other planets. Well, it's this. It happens with a process called panspermia. But panspermia is the DNA on meteorites, and that's why meteorites you see have certain circulatory or cycles that come within certain atmospheres, or they say, well, a meteorite shower came to the planet. On the tips of those meteorites are certain enzymes in DNA that's responsible for the growth of let's say, prehistoric or ancient animals, which is your metazoa, protozoa, and your single-celled organisms that exist and is protected on the meteorite. And when it comes to the planet, the conditions of life is conducive for the growth of these simple life organisms, and things begin to grow. And with extraterrestrial intervention, life is sped up, and other seeds are planted on the planet. The same thing happened with the planet Earth. But the birth of the planet Earth that you're on, right, comes from a specific design that was done by our Nathar or our ancestors that have these abilities within natural nature. And that's why this is important to learn. So let's get back to this birthing of the earth, which is in existence, how and why. Get that publication, email me and find out more information. Now, the sun, with this conscious mind that's responsible for organizing this particular solar system within this universe, there's billions of stars that have this same conscious etheric energy that's responsible for birthing solar systems and other systems of life within this multiverse and within the universe. We're just talking about yours because your planet is connected to a specific star system known as Ilion through Sirius and Osiris. This is why they adopted the Sirius constellation and use it as a marker for your year, your 360-day year, which is, actually 60 days, they say 65, but they acknowledge this as a time marker because 360 days is a perfect orb or perfect circle. And they divide it up by 12, and you get 36, which is basically your numbers of the clock and the numbers of your time zones. And so this planet has set in a perfect position in the conscious orchestration of the sun, and set right in a position that made it conducive for life, your life. And your life, the circumference is actually, like I said, it's 24,000 miles. The equinox, it has a 24,000 year equinox, right? The light it exists, it has 24 colors. The Dendora calendar has 24 signs of the star map divided by 2, which is 12. They may say 12 zodiac signs. You have your 12 rising and your 12 setting signs. They correlate your rising sun, your rising moon, etc. These are your 24 zodiac signs. Your planet Earth is designed on a 24 mechanism, right? 24 time span or time zone that gives it a complete cycle. It also exists on Chromium 24, which completes the orb, or which is, let's say, this periodic table, the 24th element, which is chromium. Chromium prevents corrosion, right? This is by design. You are a melanated being, and because you have iron in your blood, and because you have certain elements from the periodic table, in order to prevent your corrosion from the water and the sun, which creates rust, right? To prevent your body from dying early, the chromium was added, which is the 24th element. So this is all a perfected design by intelligent beings that's responsible for our creation in original creation, in original manifestation of your seed. This is pre-biblical. The Bible creation story is it started in 3761 BCE. So it's not the existence of everything in the universe. That's a small fragment of your history. Our story is being taught by our Nathar, our deity in flesh, Atum Re, Panabab Yanun, the Heavenly Father in flesh, who has incarnated to teach and reintroduce Africans to your science and to your way of life. And because you're lost in other religious doctrines, sometimes in our doctrine, you'll hear us go make reference to the biblical text, because this is where you have your origin of overstanding, because this is what you were given first. So oftentimes your mind goes back to, when you say creation, you say, oh, in the beginning. And we say, no, it's not the beginning of all things. So you'll say, the question comes up, well, when did everything start? That's a concept introduced by religion. You have to be wiped cleansed of that concept that everything started at a specific point. Yes, and there is a big bang that takes place within the universe. And that big bang happens, but there's big bangs that are continuously happening throughout the universe and throughout all of existence. There's a big bang when that egg it collided by the sperm. When the sperm hits the egg, there's a microscopic, right, in a microcosmic world, right, in a infinitesimally small world, there's a loud clash that takes place, right, within the womb of the mother. That's a bang. There's also bangs that happen within the universe that you rarely hear, when an explosion takes place, when a star explodes and becomes, when it explodes its guts or it ejaculates its life force, right? That the same way the penis does, or the phallus, it ejaculates this life force and spreads the seed throughout the universe, or throughout the womb of existence, of dark matter, of the feminine Neith, which is the primordial abyss, the womb of space. This atom ejaculates through this, right? They call it this etheric fire. And you see the sun and these particles explode and become they call it a red giant. And then it collapses on itself the same way the male collapses after an ejaculation. This is all a part of natural nature's design to continue life. And this is why this Atum, when it says he ejaculated with accuracy in Pagatut, which is one of the actual facts, the father explains that one of the deity, when you see it on the wall of ancient Egypt, and he has his phallus in his hand, and it looks like he's ejaculating, but it says he's ejaculating other deities, is because the mind of this being manifests through what? Breathing outward, or outward a push or a breath. When you say shu or shawal, you actually have to push or breathe, and the force of breath pushes the life force within the material world, and then things begin to grow. It happens within plants. It happens within animals. The seed is pushed into darkness, and the seed. This is all a part of the natural design of natural nature. And these Nathard, our ancestors, your ancestors, are responsible for this manifestation of order and chaos. Order is birthed out of chaos. Chaos is where, when you look into the space, you look into space and you see the existence of what looks like a formless cloud of dust. Then as it begins to spin and form and turn, formulating the material manifestation that is designed to become. And that's why in our doctrine, it says the nature of, the rule of is the nature of. Whatever you're ruled by, whatever your nature is, by natural nature is what you will be ruled by. And your nature as a natural etheric being born from your ancestors, you have to transform back into your original design, your original mind, which is Nuwapu. And that's why most people don't know what it is, because they can't define it, because it existed pre-creation. What is Nuwapu? Well, Nuwapu is basically, when you look at what Nuwapu is you right, and I'll get into, I hope you're following me. I don't want it to be too all over the place, because this doctrine has a lot of variables that the Father plugs in order for us to comprehend it and draw a picture and understanding the complexities of what was lost and how we have to get our minds in order to understand. Okay, you follow. I know you're intelligent. That's why you're here. So Nuwapu, for those that want to understand what these symbols mean, when it says Nuwaupian nation, right? Which we are. We'll get into the original nation. Nuwapu is the ability, as you as a being, is what you were born as in natural nature. You were born to reason. We explained this before, but we have to go over it again and again, right? Right. And when you say in a book called "What is Nuwapu," ask about it. The father has written a book called "What is Nuwapu," right? You'll see in the Science of Sound Right Reasoning, and his followers are the right in Nuwaupians are the sons and daughters of sound right reasoning. And reasoning is a process of thinking. It's how you think, how you were born to think, how you were conceived to think. Because when you're born or conceived, not born, you have two births though, right? When you're conceived in the womb of your mother, you have a mind from your mother, you have a mind from your father that creates your mind. That mind that you're given, in order for it to begin to grow, it has a reasoning process that manifests the physical body. It reasons out how you're supposed to become who you're supposed to become within the epigenetic or let's say geometric resonance or morphogenetic field. That's the word, morphogenetic field, by which your parents, your environment exist in. You have a matrix that your body is grown on. And that's why you have a specific shape and a specific form. Why do you have fingers? Why do you have these fingers are used for a specific task? Why do you have eyes that are right here and not one on the back of your head and one on the front of your head? Why are your ears here positioned in a way that the curvature allows the sound waves to enter and into the eardrum, to the cochlea, and the sound vibrations transferred to these cilia-like hairs that convert sound into chemical messages that your brain can understand and hear as sound and determine based on the tone what it is you're trying to express. How is that possible? It's because it's reasoning. This is a science of the Wusabat that the Father is trying to get you to understand, that your body is designed through a reasoning process. Everything that you learn is done through reasoning. When a baby is learning how to walk, right, it figures out that if it has to hold on to something because it probably previously fell, and reasoning out in order to prevent it falling, let me stabilize my being. That's not taught to the child. That's something that the child is reasoning. That's a certain amount of intelligent genes or intelligence that your ancestors gave you and bred into your DNA. Now, the same way a child, he or she may try to grab a block or grab something, and they realize, okay, I'm not holding it tight enough. It fell. Let me grab it with both hands the next time. That's reasoning. As you see these creative forces, this reasoning, the real creator manifests within actions. It manifests proper actions and right decisions. And the more reasoning you access, the more intelligent you become, and the more learning your brain develops to ability to learn more. and therefore you develop into the deity that you're supposed to become. Why is that takes place? It takes place through reasoning. So when you hear Nuwapu, that's the science of reasoning. Now, reasoning is not something that everyone automatically has. It has to be perfected, and it has to be learned through your actions and it creates right decision making. How do you learn through actions? It's through your experiences. And that's why when you hear a person such as us, beings who are Nuwaupians, right? And you as well, who is a Nuwaupian, when you begin to think with reasoning, the other religious or people who are fed beliefs and accept beliefs, who've been taught to believe, don't reason. This is where the twofold of how religion has, right, it has sedated human beings, because in religious doctrine, you're taught not to reason. You're taught not to know. You say, oh, you don't have to know if this is an original book. You don't have to know if there's really a God. You just have to believe. And that's why there's the lack of development within the religious minds. They can't progress mentally because the reasoning part of your brain has been stunted by belief systems that teach you just accept anything without confirmation. And if you're taught that as a child, your reasoning is cut off. So as you grow into adulthood, everything you're accepting without practicing reasoning. Therefore, the divine in your mind, the reasoning part of your brain, it begins to die, and you become a mummy. You become mummified. They've said you're dead, you're a dying being, because you've stopped activating the brain seeds or the reasoning being. Reasoning is a literal supreme being that exists, that you access and you request how to properly use your brain with this particular being. And this reasoning mind, which is the original creator, it manifests things in natural nature to assist you, such as the plants and food, such as the sun. This is part of your reason. And this is what the Father asks. He says, and he makes a question is presented to him, right, in natural ether energy, right? And I'll get into that, where it says, where the question is what? This is the question. The question is presented to him. It says, Rakua, right, which is reasoning, right? This is the question is, what are the three main material magic space powers? This is the divine that's in speaking here. You have three divine space powers that's responsible for the growth of existence and the manifestation. Rakua is reasoning. Pardon me. Rakua is Pa Fatir al Akak Nashat. Rakua is natural ether energy. That's the energy within space that exists. That's absolute. It's nothing you can't take away from it. You can't add to it, because where would you get it from to add? That's the same thing with when you look at Pa'ut. You can't give to all, and you can't take away from all. If you give to all, where would you get it from if that all doesn't already have? And you can't take away from all, because where would you take it away from and give it to? What place or space and time would you give it to? You can't. So the concept of our creation, in our story of creation, there's three space powers that exist. One is natural ether energy, right? Fatir al Akak Nashat. Then you have the second is Nakush, which is your reasoning. The third is etheric beings, which is pardon me. Mu'ak'u, pardon me. Yeah, Mu'ak'u, etheric beings. Mu'ak'u, etheric, which is sabbatic, right? Mukwan, etheric beings. Etheric beings are beings that are etheric without the physical body, exist within the matrix of the etheric abode, that is not, they're not attached, or they don't have attached to their beings material matter. You have attached to your being material matter, because you're in a specific density that attracts atoms to you, because the physical density that you're on the first, second, and third abodes have physical laws that are intransgressible. So your physical body automatically attracts, when you're in the womb, the magnetic powers attracts the flesh back to your particular body, right? When you attach the physical, when the mother breathes in, she grows the body within the baby within the womb. She attracts the material matter and is shaped and molded. But etheric beings are not involved with that birthing process because they don't manifest necessarily in the physical that way. They can, after the body is born, they can enter the body etherically, right? This what they did with our father. They Yanun, the physical etheric, the physical body, Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, the etheric being Yanun has manifested himself within this vessel as an avatar to teach and give this information, the same way Ningizida uses his body as well as an avatar to teach a certain amount of doctrine about a race of species of beings known as the Anunnaki, and also Tehutwi, an Athar that uses his physical body to teach about our Natharu. So as a being thrice times great, he has three tones in one, and the body is utilized. This is why he's able to give us this information, and different beings is responsible for teaching a certain amount of knowledge depending on the questions that humanoids have on this planet. But you had to be raised up enough to receive this wusabat, which is your spiritual science. But in raising you up, you still have religious questions. You still have things that someone else taught you that you want to know about. And that was his biggest hindrance, because you always ask questions about things that other races taught you to keep you sedated from knowing who you really are as those gods that have the ability to connect with those etheric beings or your ancestors, that gives you the power to manifest through reasoning the civilizations and the magic and the higher senses and the brain capacity that you were able to use at a distant time. They know that about you. So they have to keep you in religious doctrines. We have taught, the Father has taught us religious doctrines for 40 years, but not from their perspective. What he said is that if you want to learn about Islam, which by the etymological word is what? Peace, salama, which is peaceful state. Just because it's an Arabic word doesn't mean it's a Arab cultural connotation. Because you hear Islam, you hear Islam as, oh, it must be from the Arabs. No, because before the Arabs invaded Africa, we were already in a state of peace. So he's not talking about Islam from that perspective. When you hear Hebrew or Nuwaupian Islamic Hebrew, when you hear Hebrew, when he says Hebrew, he's talking about a migration, the migrations of the tribes that have migrated, the black tribes that you find in your biblical text. There are black tribes in the Bible. He's not saying that when we teach, you may have heard us teach about the Father, and we make reference to publications where he speaks about Yahweh and the other deities and the Adamite race within Genesis that was created and bred, that became evil and wicked and had the curse of leprosy in Genesis 9:25. The curse be canon, and there were spots. Yes. And there were many of these tribes, 11 of them, that roamed about in the Levant area, that went into the Caucasoid Mountains and went into other areas of Europe and went into lands and took people, took women, mixed their seed. Yes, you do find that in there. But there are also black tribes within there as well, where they mix their seed in with other sub races. But the most important is that from when you look at those black tribes, such as Judah, such as the Dinaites, such as the Ishmaelites, such as the Israelites, right? Such as the Kedarites, those were, and the Ishmaelites that came in. Ishmael was the son of Hagar, who was an Egyptian. So your seed was mixed in within these tribes. And this is why you find various speaking languages throughout the Eastern Africa coming out of Sabbatic or Nuwaupic, and the Semitic languages were born out of them. Ishmael, as a speaker of his father's language, cuneiform, coming from a Chaldees, and his mother speaking the Egyptian, the Patan tongue or the Egyptian tongue, combined a new language which became Arabic. But this was pre the diacritics, the dots and the kasras and the lines. This was before that introduction. This was the ancient Arabic and ancient Hebrew. When you look at ancient Hebrew and ancient Arabic, you don't see the lines and the dots that was added to allow certain pronunciations from other cultures that they wanted to speak the books or the text that they created from our cultures. They created books as well from our culture. The books that were created from our culture are the biblical text that was given back to you. They took your culture, took the story of Yahshua out of Egypt, made their version, gave it back to you. They took the story of Muhammad, who was from the tribe of Kedar, from Ishmael, from the seed of Hagar, as an Arab, the first Arab, which means to mix and mingle. And because he was a mixed seed from the Chaldean, the Persian, Ibrahim, right? And his name changed with Hagar, who was a descendant of the deities out of Egypt. He became a mixed seed, but he was a dark-skinned seed. He was a Nubian. When you look at the Nubians or Nuwaup, when you look at their hair texture, you see that they had the Ethiopians and the Nubians there, they have a curly type hair texture. You look at them, they're known as the Hadendawa or the Fuzzy Wuzzy or the Mahdiya tribes. They're different from the West African. You don't see the same hair texture. Why? Because they have the Chaldean hair texture, which is almost 7 ether, black, dark skin with slightly curly, and then the Negroid Egyptian seed that mixed in and gave you this 8 ether, wavy, curly, dark skin, new mix or Nubian or Nuwaupian seed. They're all of the same tribes. They're all of the same seed that migrated into West Africa and eventually into the Americas, which you find today as the lost seed of the Nuwaupians that His Excellency Dr. Malachi York came to teach and came to raise up. Because of the invasions, you lost your original language. You lost your original flag. You lost your culture. It had to be reintroduced to you. Now it's being rebirthed and reborn, right? And resurrected in Africa out of the East, because that's where the sun rises or appears to rise. And you had to turn your time in the West in the Americas, where he taught you all for 40 years, but you all rejected his doctrine. You all rejected what he came to give you, and you slandered and you lied and you incarcerated him, and you didn't come to his rescue. You allowed the devil to take him, and you're depending on the devil, the deceiver. That's why he said, read the book of Leviathan again. He's still deceiving the world because he has you thinking that you still have to go to him to get your president. You still have to go to him to ask him how to get him out, or go to court and request a judge to free a deity that was responsible for this being's creation. You're still subject to his laws. You're still subject to his rules. You don't know that because you're locked in that formation. You're locked in that new Babylon, which is the garden or that gate that they have the cherubim guarding you from coming out, right? That's why it says in the book of Revelations, come out of her, my people. You don't want to come out of her. You don't want to come to Africa. You don't want to build your home in Africa. You say you do. It sounds good when you say, oh, this is an African doctrine. These are African colors. This is where African people, but you don't want to lend a helping hand to the continent where your Nathar, your deities, were born. And it speaks about that in this actual facts that we just read, that within the, let me see, right? Where is it? I just had it right in front of me. Okay. Right here, it says, these sacred 9, the Enneads, originated in time and space within various cycles and intervals, coming into existence in Africa, and were oversaw by the providers Parazaku. The Razaku are the race of who? The race of Padabab Yanun. When you see this being in white, right, with long hair, these are your Riskians, your Razaku. And so our providers, this race that he's come from, is asked our ancestors, our deities, asked Padabab Yanun, right, the being with 76 trillion years of knowledge, right, as an etheric being to assist in the liberation of our seed on this planet. And he decided to incarnate, and this is his last incarnation. He's not going to do it again, as he said, this is my last time, and this is your last chance, right? All the other leaders had their significant points and their significant experiences, and they had a job to do to raise you up. Noble Drew Ali did his job. Marcus Garvey did his job, right? Honorable Elijah Muhammad did his job. All of these individuals came. Deuce Ali did his job, right? And then now you have the final warner, right? A Messiah, the Messiah in flesh, a being in flesh and anointed in flesh to usher in the coming of Rehar Akatwi, and who is responsible for guiding as a Mahdi of the seed of the Mahdi, directly a descendant of the true Muhammad of 570, right? Born in 570, Saudi Arabia, through the seed of Kedar, not the Arabs Muhammad, known as Musaylima, who was the faker that reintroduced his own Quran that the Arabs have. As I said, they always copy our cultures, they always copy our characters, and they use it and give it to us to have us worshiping them when it really came from you. But the father, known as As-Sayyid Al-Imam Isa Al-Hadi Al-Mahdi, the seed of Al-Mahdi, the true guide of the East, and him as the guide of the West. And you'll find this information in the book Pahadeyan, the guidance. He's responsible for teaching and leading you back to the original ways of life that they all copied from. And this is inclusive of their so-called religious doctrine that they lied and scrambled and mistranslated and put certain books and gave it back to you. So when you see some people were on our conference call and you see where it says religious symbols, because our religion, let's address that in the Nuwaupian nation, in our nation, just like any other nation, in a nation, you have all walks of life. The father just didn't come for people who are in college. He didn't just come for people who are in 9th grade or in secondary school. He came for people who are also just crawling, who are just coming from up under and awakening up from up under the spell. He didn't just come for individuals who have a certain amount of intellect or think they know. Most of them, Negroes, are difficult to teach because they think they know everything. They call them the talking heads, the talking horse. Every time you teach them, they give you a reference from someone else, from someone else's race, from someone else's culture. You tell them about the culture of Wu Sabat. You tell them about Nuwapu, what it is as reasoning, which is your natural nature way of thinking. They say, oh, no, brother, we're taught just to believe. No, you were taught to believe because they don't want you to know the facts. Here, we are responsible for teaching the facts as the Father gave us. So what happens is, in a nation, when you have a group of people from all walks of life, you have Muslims in your nation. You have Jews or Hebrews in your nation. The Hebrew Israelites, Hebrews, they supposed to be a part of the Nuwaupian nation. The Nation of Islam is supposed to be a part of the Nuwaupian nation. The African nations on the continent, our African people who are locked in African countries, like Senegal, like Mali, like Algeria, like Libya, right? Like Guinea-Bissau. These are African countries. Like the Nigerians that are locked in Islamic terrorism and groups and practicing barbaric behaviors that they was taught by the Arabs. If you become a part of our nation and acknowledging our president, you will have to get the true information of Islam and not what was given to you by outside races. So the father in his seat as the deity, as the president, as our head of state, he has to consider all of these walks of life within under our umbrella, under our flag. And you can't discriminate. You can't say, oh, we don't accept people who are Muslims. We don't accept Hebrews. We don't accept Christians. No, you have to heal them because they've been lost in doctrines that are not for their best interest or not for their betterment. So this is what the Father has done. And in that consideration, we have to teach Muslims. That's why we're taught, you have the publications about the Quran, and to tell you that the Quran you're using is the false Quran. It's not the original one. We have the original Quran from the family of Muhammad through through Ali and through Fatima, through their sons that they protected in Kufa or in the language of Kufic. We have that Quran. The Father has the tablets and the information from the so-called Torah because it was Egyptian information. Contrary to what people want you to believe, Moses was taught in Egypt and he was waxed wise with wisdom. It says it in Acts chapter 7. It says all the wisdom and knowledge that Moses received came from Egypt. And he was taught in Egypt. And Egypt, they didn't have a religious doctrine. They were teaching you about your panatharu. They were teaching you about your overseers. They were teaching you about this the information that the Father has given us from our deities, where the secrets of the Egyptian mystery schools was kept. Moses was initiated into those schools. Yahshua of 2,000 years ago, he didn't have a religious, these doctrines that you were given and converted to came after they were taught in Egypt. Every time they're taught in Egypt and given this science of Wusabat, this science of Nuwapu, they're given this reasoning, this sound right reasoning, this factual information. Other cultures began to worship them and created religions after these great deities. Who are these deities? You are. The moment you begin to reason and you start making sense and you give facts, all the knowledge in the universe will open up to you. And it's transferred through you, through your being. And that's why within the the divine design, within the chakras, this is why how the information is transmitted into your body, as because you are a radio transmitter and you have literal cables in your body. You call them tendons or fibers that literally are a mesh of fiber network throughout all of your organs. Ask any doctor about the biology of the body. They'll tell you there's a fibric optic little nerves that flow throughout your body, and you receive this information through the sun, which is a conscious deity that's responsible for the growth and the true deity of this solar system. And it manifests from nine ether, from an etheric being known as Atum or Reye, Atum Reye, who is manifest physically as the Father. That's why it says in Psalms 84:11 that the Lord is a sun. That's why we spoke about that. That's why this new symbol represents, right? This symbol represents, hold on, that you see right here, and you see right here, right? And you see right here on this flag. That is the sun that represents what? Let's go over it, right? It says in Psalms 84:11, it says, for the Lord is a sun and a shield. So when you see this shield and you see the sun, it's in reference to natural nature. Why? Because as Sabaeans, you heard this word before where people are confused. Nuwaupians, Sabaeans, what are you? A Sabaean is one of the beings who are of the heavenly host. What heavenly host? The star systems, the beings that exist within the stars, a host of generations from the heavens and the earth. That's what it says in Genesis chapter 2. These are the generations or genes of the heavens, you coming from Sirius, coming from Orion, seeding the planet, and you were record keepers of these star systems, and you acknowledge these star systems, and you acknowledge the planetary bodies because they were your deities, because they were the ones really giving you life. And you are a part of this stardust. You are part of the creation of the material world that came from the sun, which makes you a gold. That's why you see the gold signature. You see the gold with gold people, or the illuminated ones. You are the ones that were really the Illuminati. That's where they got it from, because the gold was in your blood. So when a person says, well, Nuwaupians are not religious, our religion is animism. And animism it's known. Listen to what if you want to be religious and you acknowledge the religious symbols, these are symbols of star systems. You see a crescent. That's a symbol of the moon, coming out of the moon cycle into the sun cycle, which we're coming out of the last 6,000 years, we're coming into the sun cycle, which is the new 24,000 renewal of our story that has to be renewed. And this is the renewal, and this is the resurrection, the double resurrection, which is the unctwi that you see in the middle, again, right there, right? So this, when you say, well, the religious symbols, everyone that is that has acknowledged themselves as religious has acknowledged star worship. And they got it from us because we were the record keepers of those celestial abodes, because they were time markers. And we addressed this in the other episode, I think 11, right? Where it was we talked about the sacred feminine and the calendars, the true calendar and the true time. So because we were timekeepers and we were record keepers, and we had to look at the cosmological clock in order to understand the era or the phase or the zodiac sign we were moving in, leaving out of Pisces, coming into Aquarius, the age of water to the age of air, then we had to keep a record of the, let's say, the precession that happens every 24,000 years, where the wobble of the planet moved into different zodiac star systems that gave us our true calendar, so we'll know when our resurrection, when there will be a transformation, when it will be our time to rule. So with our religious symbols, you'll see that there are suns and there's stars there in all of the religious world, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. They have star and crescents all throughout the Islamic world. Look at their flags. They have stars, they have suns, they recognize the sun. They recognize the moon. They recognize the celestial abodes. The Celtic religions, they recognize our ancient Nathard as the originators of the true birthers of natural nature. They all recognize it. You just don't, because you want to follow what they want you to mislead you. And that's why the Father is saying, come back under your own flag. Come back under your own banner. Come back under your own, your original nation, the original creation. And the original nation, we were the first nation. Why? Because nations are born out of the sovereignty of your overseers, meaning that you are original because the obelisk, which represents sovereignty, is the phallus of Atum, and is symbolic of the ejaculation from the Big Bang, seeding the planet as the first beings. That's why they have the phallus there, because the phallus, which is your obelisk, they call it Cleopatra's Needle. They call it a ben, because it represents the original primordial ejaculation, which is panspermia, of the seeding of planets throughout the universe. And they understood that because they sat at the mystery schools of ancient Egypt, and they followed deities and acknowledged the deities such as the Grand Hierophant Zahutwi, the being you see right here, who taught them at the Greeks and taught the Romans, and because they came in there and they got certain portions of knowledge, not all of it. They didn't get the secrets. They didn't get the information of the Stargate and how to get out of here, but they know he knows, and they know he knows how to get you out of here. And they know that as long as they try to keep him incarcerated and you don't come for him, then you won't have the ability to save yourself. And freeing him means you can be free. And that's what we are about in this actual facts. So we are the ones that are going to say, we don't need permission. That's why I'm telling you, oh, there was a sister, and I wish she reached out to me. I don't know if I spoke about the campaign for now or never. It's a vote. And we're going to talk about that because we're going to launch the website very soon, and it has to be organized so all of you all can vote. It's not something that someone can say, I heard someone saying, who you going to vote for? How you going to do that? Mind your business. Stop trying to influence the progress that we have, and because you're not a part of it. And these people know who I'm talking about. When a person wants to exercise their sovereignty and their freedom, it's always Negroes who have residue of slave master mentalities that says we can't be who we are because we always got to ask permission from somebody. Those days are over with. We are gods. We are deities. We are children of the original creators of this universe, of the original creators of this planet. We don't need permission from nobody. Y'all should be asking us for help because y'all about to get wiped off the planet from the things that you've done to other races on the planet. And the people, the Negroes that want to be next to him and want to always kiss his butt and try to carry out his agenda, right? And use the things of his world, the lies, the fabrications, and the illusions of white magic, because they don't acknowledge black magic. They think black magic is something that the devil taught you is bad. Bad guys wear black. Angels' food cake is white. Devil's food cake is black. Black market, black mass, black. No, black magic is dark matter, is dark energy that you don't see. That is the manifester of all material world. Everything is born out of dark matter. All your scientists, all your astrophysicists, they will tell you. They can't even study dark matter because it doesn't even have a radioactive emittance for you to understand what it is. In order for you to even, let's say, measure the frequency or the energy level, it needs a radioactive transmitting so you can detect its existence. It doesn't even do that, so they don't know what it is. The only thing they know about dark matter and dark energy is that it affects gravitation. And so when you see on certain in quantum physics, they'll have these grids where they have a matrix laid out, and then they'll have the planet sitting inside and the matrix bends at a certain area, because this matrix is designed by our deities in the etheric realm. They designed the matrix for us to exist within the material world. And the laws that they impose on the physical are intransgressible. Laws like gravity, laws like natural, the nature of is the rule of. This is all part of natural design. So they have very limited knowledge of our creation. And so when you get into let's moving forward, when you talk about these deities or overseers, our deities, right? It says that when you talk about the heavens, let me go over, give you the references where the Father speaks about Zahuti's vision. Matter of fact, he says in verse 386, Nut Natat, the feminine deity Nathartat, personification of the cosmic elements, who explains this physical Wahu Makwan universe. She is the sacred nine. She is of the sacred nine. This Natat or Nut Natat is the cosmic elements. She's the deities, right? She's the feminine. Thank you for that. I recognize that, Art. Appreciate you. She's the feminine deity that manifests the cosmic elements. What the Father says, Atum, who is the Father, the transcendental cause, the absolute of all, he is referred to as one, right? The first true creator who made the world and everything in it, because within him is and was all the potential of all life. In this deity, all of life exists within the conscious of this supreme mind. This is why everyone says we recognize Atum. Why? Because he's over the mental reservoir. The entire mental reservoir that's responsible for the knowledge on the planet that you have a very small access to is very limited. You have access to it. Extraterrestrials bring outside information to you and human beings and introduces it to human beings. Some are negative, some are evil, and they use it for negative things, right? You have to have extraterrestrial intervention, because human beings are locked within a sphere and your access to those higher worlds are limited, except if you open yourself up and accept the being or deities and acknowledge them through loyalty, perseverance, and practice of your spiritual way of life. You will attune yourself to that and they will give you that power. But this being Atum is over this mental reservoir. It says in verse 7, right? It says, let me back up. It says within the meaning, completeness, or totality. This is Atum. As the supreme Father, who's out of the primordial ejaculation came the liquid gold. This is a massive explosion where people say the Big Bang, right? But what happened? How did the Big Bang, how and what will collide it in order for a bang, for the energy to become let's say, explode outward, or an outward explosion to where these manifestations of these multiverses began to grow. It was from the liquid gold of Atum, happened within Nunet, the womb, that you don't see. That's why you don't see the conception of the baby in the womb, because the same thing happens within space. You don't see this conception. You don't see the sperm in the womb the same way you don't see the sperm within space. In space, there is an ejaculation from this being Atum. If you read it, you'll see, and we'll go over it right now, came the liquid gold into the womb of Nun or space, having the ingredients of life to properly seed the universe. And I refer to Bakatut, the gateway. Yes, he's responsible for all the gods and goddesses to teach and give knowledge. Right. Verse 7, Atum was not only deemed to have come from the primordial water, ocean, Nun and Nunet, that he was also involved in the creation of the sun. How was he involved with the creation of the sun? Well, creation of the sun hydrogen to helium. This is the manifestation of the first atom into the material world, the periodic table going this way. That's interesting. I like that. The Milky Way. Exactly. The reason why the periodic table, hydrogen goes from hydrogen helium onto your highest element coming this way, because the moment the black hole opens up, the womb opens up, the ejaculation comes out or comes in, depending on what side you're on, and the material world begins to manifest. This happens, and Atum is responsible for it. In verse 11 and 13 of the same actual fact, you see Atum's explosive orgasm that created universes. His ejaculation is a symbol of astonishing accuracy, that all basic life ingredients existed from the very first. All existence of life seeded from this being. Now, from Atum, his counterpart, which is Neith, right? His counterpart, which is the primordial space, twins was born, namely Tefafnatat, Tefnut, which was liquid, water, and Shawal, which is air or gas. How do you know? This is going to blow your mind. This is what the Father teaches in Ultimate Reality, one of the master secrets. How do you know that the birth of air, which is a deity, Shawal, when you see it on the Egyptian walls, people say, well, it represents the principle of air, but air is a deity. It thinks. How do you think? You think. If you didn't have air, you couldn't think. It takes breath for the conscious, the igniting of the flame in the lungs, the combustion that converts the air, sparks the blood, spontaneous combustion that gives off the gas that fuses into the lungs and sends oxygen to the brain. That brain takes it. What happens, it takes place where you begin to you say you're awake. And that's why they got the story from the Egyptians in the biblical, in the Quranic text, where it says, and he breathed the breath of life he blew into man. That means that without the element of shawal or air, you couldn't exist. Right? So it wasn't that the God or religious God that they claim exists was responsible for giving life. No, because he needed the elements. He needed the Thar. He needed your deities in order to manifest the physical life. He needed the elements of the earth. Gabab, right? Which is the earth, the mud or the dust, or however you word it, whatever word you want to use to make it sound like your God or Allah, whatever, this Yahweh being, this something so miraculous and so overwhelmingly miraculous and magical, he still needed the deities that are responsible for natural nature. So when he breathed out, which was actually poison, because you exhale carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide, this being breathed in, right? But air doesn't have color. And air doesn't have, you can't see it. You can feel it. Just like a person says, well, water is invisible. Water doesn't have color. Let's say that. Because there's a whole discussion about water and air being invisible. Why? Because it was pre the manifestation of sound, pre-manifestation of light. So you don't have light or color within water and air. These are deities that existed pre-material. You get it? So when you see that this being Shawal and Tefnut liquid came out of Atum, is because they didn't have the DNA of creation, which was the color. They came out of this primordial. That's why they say the firmaments of the heavens. There's water in the heavens. There's, because all the abundance of hydrogen and the abundance of oxygen that exists within space, those elements are deities that are part of natural nature, that are absolute, because without breathing, you couldn't exist. Without water, you couldn't exist. Without these deities in your life manifesting themselves in the material world, you would not exist. You would not have life. Therefore, they are responsible for the creation of natural nature, which every being, every deity, every body, every person, place, and thing in existence depends upon. That's what makes our deities the oldest and the most powerful of all, because they are responsible for the manifestation of natural nature. And that's who Shawal, Shugas, and then out of those two, they birth Gabab, which is Gab, right? And Natat space, and they are in turn birth two sets of twins, Aset, Asar, Aset. These are your deities of ancient Mekmet, and Neptut and Sutuk. And this manifestation began on this planet the 24,000 year cycle of your planet from these deities, right? And with that, the creation of the universe. These beings, these are, as the Father teaches, I'm coming out of these publications. These beings are your what? Elemental and etheric beings setting down to cool the planet from it burning after Earth's explosion, right? So when the planet Earth as a rock began to cool, coming from the sun, this happened billions of years ago, began to cool and settle, and the life was imported and implanted on the planet. As it began to cool down, the gases and the methane and other ammonias and the conditions of life was conducive for the perfect sector 6, right, orb that exists from 3 from the sun, 6 from the outer space, right? It speaks about that in Birth of Matrix, and it's 6. It says 6 sector or 6 zone. That's the word. The Father name, it calls Earth the 6th zone, and this 6th zone is the Earth from 6 from Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, and growing 24 points. Now, what's intricate or significant? Let's get into the significant mathematics of this planet, right? And it was given this unique hard one molecule. Human beings was given this unique molecule. This molecule is a hard one molecule. It's unique because it I think it's on the 20th chromosome, right? 19th or 20th. Don't quote me on that. It's those two. I know it's those, one of those two, that this hard chromosome sit, which is the seed of Panatharu. And this is why from Aset and Asar came hard, which was the Yahshua, or the being you know as Jesus, who became the mediator between the deities, the Father, Asar, and human beings. Because it was at that point where from hard, beings began to, let's say, go from deity down to mortal. And from hard or Horus or Rehar Akatsui up, that seed goes up this line to the deities, the Enneads, and then to the Ogdoads, and then to Sirius, the star system, back to Risk, and back to Orion, Sirius, and back to Risk. But the seed comes down to Hard, which is the seed of Nathard, where humanoids will be responsible for reaching this being, and he becomes the speaker, or the no one gets to the Father but through him. That's how the religious doctrines adopted this particular, let's say, this particular, what's the word I'm looking for? Hierarchy, for lack of a better word, of deities down to humans. And that's why in the halls of judgment, you'll see Horus or Harar in front of Asar to judge mortals to see if they align themselves back with their ancestors by way of patarak and actual facts, and adopting your true reasoning nature on your natural nature and your culture that's reintroduced by Asar, the deity manifested in the Father, His Excellency, Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, when Asar incarnated in the 24,000 year cycle that you see in the Osiris procession on the land, where he was wearing the garb of Asar in that procession. And Asar and Aset gave birth to this particular being. And this being had reincarnated, the Father reincarnated to usher in this new cycle. And this is why you see this hierarchy here with these deities and the Enneads, and it ends with Har from these deities down. And that's what's important for us to know. So when we go to this, the manifestation of these elements, these deities, from the physical, from the etheric world into the physical, right? The manifestation of ether or element forces come by way of tones. We talked about that earlier. Sounds vibrating, which brings forth movement. This is the Ogdoads. We talked about them, right? We said the Ogdoads as the Pamuftaru or Pamutmanu, Pamutmamu. These are Ogdoads who are the vibrational beings. This is not the Enneads. The Enneads are the deities that were grown in Africa, seated here by Pa Murzaku, but the Ogdoads, who the Enneads come out of, the Ogdoads are your vibrational beings. These are your tones, sounds, and frequencies, which brings forth the movement, because movement brings forth sound, or sound brings forth movement, and vice versa. Movement creates sound, sound creates movement, and both creates a tone. This tone, they have scales depending on the movement. Do, re, mi, fa, so. You have the harmony of A, B, C, D, E, F, right? These tones or sounds create harmony. Har, right? Again, you hear the word. The harmony of the physical manifestation of humanoids, which also these sound beings create emotions, and this explains why the Enneads came out of them. So the Ogdoads were first. These are your sound beings. Then the manifestation in the physical, from Atum to Shawal to Tafafnatat, water, Geb, right? And then you get to Ashtet, and Asar, coming out of these octave beings. And these octave beings came, the Enneads came on land by way of this vibration, which is the octave beings working, the Ogdoads working together with the Enneads. So I'm trying to condense it so we can explain it, because the Father writes it in many books, and it's difficult to cover in one lecture, as you can see, because our story is vast and it has a lot of details. So save your questions. Right. I'm not too much of a singer, right? So someone knows those tones. A singer knows those tones. I appreciate all of that support. It definitely helps with the mission. For those, I appreciate that. Zamal, I think that's the brother from Houston, and Born King, Lydian, right? I'm gonna make sure I pronounced that name right. I appreciate that. Thanks. It's going to go to the mission and continuing, because we still have to do our work to free the Father, right? So another question was asked. If you have any questions, please prepare them and put them in the chat. I'm going to open up this questions and answer after this. So it says, right? It says, the question is this. One of the questions was asked, because the Nagard African race of human beings. No, back up. That wasn't the question. The question is, how does our overseers and Enneads, who are your 9 Enneads or sacred 9, relate to the physical body? We were touching on this and the manifestation of the growth of human beings within the universe. And we touched on that right through the endocrine system. The endocrine system is a series of glands. This is the human being's connection. This is your connection to your ancestors. Your endocrine system is responsible for your moods. It's responsible for growth. It's responsible for hormones. we did an entire lecture on that. I think it's the spiritual abode. When you can, episode 4, we touch on that, but we're going to touch on it here because a lot of new people are coming in. They may not have caught that episode. Well, the endocrine system is responsible for your glands, your pituitary gland, your pineal gland, your thymus gland, your adrenaline glands, your ovaries, your gonads, which are your ovaries and testicles. You have all of these glands that's responsible for how you operate, your metabolism, your moods, your growth, how much weight you have, how much your sexual hormones, your estrogen and androgen, which is responsible for secreting what when you're prepared for reproduction, your pineal gland, which is your pine cone, that's responsible for opening up your third eye, which is the eye that thinks and doesn't blink. This is where the ancients had the kundalini, which is your spinal representation, or at the top of the crown, right there in the middle, right? Which they had the serpent there, be wise as a serpent, because once your kundalini rise through your chakras, you'll be able to receive this whole light information again through your chakra seats. This is a part of the science that you overstood. The moment you align yourself properly in the right environment, FAC, the right environment, natural nature, which is F, the planet is F, A is the body, C is natural nature. The moment you align yourself on those 3 notes and tones, the planet Earth will vibrate with you. The universe will open up. Your being will open up because your chakra seat will be aligned through chanting and prayer. That's why it's important to chant and pray, because the sound that you hear from the tones are actually magnetic frequencies that, one, it creates a barrier from outside tones and voices, just like a radio transmitter. You are right, that prevents outside signals from coming in. The moment you tune into that radio frequency, no signals can get in. Well, this will happens with your chants and your prayers. You align yourself and lock yourself onto your ancestors' frequencies, and no other outside influences from other beings or other worlds or people who mean you, spirit beings who mean you no good, can penetrate your radio. And once that is done, you have the alignment of the chakras, which are your connection to the Enneads, your overlords, your deities, your overseers, and from there they can correct and heal your being. So if you're going through ailments and you're going through sicknesses and diseases and your body is not functioning the way that it's supposed to, it's because your chakra seats are misaligned. The same way, if you misalign a cord going into an outlet, your glands sit into these etheric sockets. Your body has etheric sockets that light up, right, in the etheric world. Your glands sit into these sockets and they connect through the nerve endings. There's frequencies from this etheric world that connects through the nerves system, the same way information is transmitted through fiber optic nerves or fiber optics. Your body has these nerves that work as fiber optics, and it receives information through these various seats. And as this information becomes aligned, it's like plugging in a certain amount of cords to have a machine work. Oftentimes, these big machines that use huge voltage from different sources, they have to plug in one, and then they have to plug in another, then they have to plug in another until the 7 are complete, right? Because with the surge of information from the etheric world, if your body is not aligned and you don't have, and you're not vibrating at the right frequency, you haven't raised your vibration, you can short circuit and there can be an overload and you can blow the fuse of your being. And that happens when a certain amount of surge of power comes in, and also all of a sudden a person just faints and they just go into a collapse. The same thing happens when you touch a socket and the surge causes your nervous system to shut down. Well, when you are opening yourself up to these forces, you have to have a cleansed body and a mind, because any outside residue from other frequencies could throw off the transmission. And that transmission it'll be distorted, and you'll be off key and you won't get the proper signal or the proper information that you need. And that's why it's a series of transformation powers that takes place within these actual facts, where you have to eliminate all of the residue from other races and other doctrines and tune into your own spiritual science in order to receive what you're supposed to receive in your genes, from outintelligence to intel in genes, intelligent genes or intelligence. That's what takes place. So within the endocrine system, it's a series of glands that regulate growth, sexual function, metabolism, tissue function, reproduction, and a host of other bodily functions such as sleep, your mood, your sleep, right? So the Enneads and Ognuads, existing as natural ether energy, attune themselves to the body through these different glands by amplifying the signals. When you amplify, that's what I was speaking of, the amplification of the signal allows you to receive a certain amount of outformation. When you begin to speak these actual facts, as you move up the ladder, you're like, wow, it's in me now. And you can teach, you can grasp and understand it. It makes so much sense that you basically feel like you already knew it. That's why the Father said you are already a Nuwaupian. You just don't know it yet. It has to be activated. The reasoning has to be rekindled. Your memory and your guidance that you have has to be restored. It happened in the womb of your mother. You actually were swimming in darkness. The feminine seed egg was attracting, sending signals to the sperm and attracting a certain sperm. And the sperm was moving and communicating with the egg to get to that particular point with millions of other people in the same race or beings in the same race, racing for that connection, going over obstacles, trying to get through the urethra, the uterus wall, the mucus lining that would attack sperm coming in, because the feminine body actually attacks sperm cells and pulls it into the mucus membrane and destroys it. Then it has to go through another obstacle where, and to find the egg in the fallopian tube, or from a fallopian tube in the uterus, that is a vast amount of space but you were able to make it. And the reason you were able to make it is because you already had reasoning within you. Reasoning is the same intelligence when you close your eyes and you have the guidance. You tap into your Nathar, your ancestors, through your ancestral line, right? That is responsible for helping you. Not everyone is responsible for helping you in your ancestors' line now. That's why some Negroes, they on point some week, and the next week you doing something you're not supposed to do. One day you praying and chanting, and the next day you watching your favorite whatever movie that's full of violence and whatever, because you have beings in your 30U that are fighting to maintain a position of the strongest voice of influence, but you have to be the voice that maintains the influence and control all of those ancestral lines in your genes. My point is that reasoning part of you, the real you, is what has to be developed in Wu Sabat, in our doctrine. And so these signals are amplified in your endocrine system the more you align yourself with the prayer and chanting. Now it says, therefore, directly influencing the function of human organism. This is how the Thar heals you. They heal you through this method. They heal you through directly influencing your body. And that's why certain people, they were able to look young for so long. And a lot of high spiritual disciplines and practices is because your ancestors, your Nathar, were responsible for healing you through this method, through your endocrine system. That's why fasting is very effective, because fasting eliminates the energy that's dispersed through your digestive process. It allows the body to cleanse. They call it apogee, I think the correct word, where if you don't eat a certain amount of food for so long, the body begins to feed on itself, but it feeds on the cancerous cells, the disease cells. It filters and removes all of the disease in the body first. It attacks that first and removes it from the body. Then you receive a new boost of energy, because the energy that would be used to digest heavy, dense meat, heavy, dense foods that make you tired when you eat, you sit down, right? They call it nigga-itis or whatever the itis is called when you lay down, and because you're sleepy from your body's energy rushing to your stomach, it doesn't rush there, it rushes to your brain. And in your brain, you have mental clarity. And then and within that, your endocrine system begins to work much more because it has the energy to function properly. And this is how your Ennead, your deities, these beings can amplify the signals. And this is why a lot of people, after they fast, they have a lot of spiritual impressions and in dreams. Their dreams are vivid and they have more visions, because this is when your endocrine system is most active and you have your metabolism is most active and your moods are more enhanced, because the food that you are eating, the dopamine that you typically would receive from food, it's not excreted in that way. So the dopamine is used for the enhancement of spiritual development as opposed to physical pleasures that you receive from sex and eating food, which is your most biggest dopamine enhancers. When you partake in food and sex, it's a dopamine fix. So if you eliminate a lot of those outside pleasures, your physical body become more enhanced and spiritual impressions are more prevalent, because the Enneads or your deities, your ancestors in that world, can amplify the signals from the etheric world. And that's through your chakras. And that's where the signals come in. This is what's spoken about in natural ether energy. So now the functions, like the endocrine system, therefore directly influences the functions of the human organism, growth and behaviors through its lifespan. Now let's read 91. It says Sabaeans or Nuwaupians know this about Fatir Akak, Nashat natural ether energy beings, natural ether energies, and how it relates to us, to the Pa Musa'u, the 9 Enneads of Heliopolis. It says, and how they relate to your physical body, to being in such a way as to attune themselves to your physical organism. 93, amplifying the signals of Kazalatat, right? Pardon me. Kazalatat the endocrine system that regulates all life and functions of the organism. It regulates everything about you. So the Negroid race, the human body, is a projection of these 9 energy levels or 9 energy bodies, which you have. You are literally a projection on the matrix of the creation of your ancestors, right? Design. You are a manifestation of these 9 etheric energies from these beings. That's why you are literally living, walking, supreme beings, deities in flesh, because of this creation, original creation. It says, because of that, they're responsible for the Negroid race. That's why the Father's not just saying your gods and your deities just because it sounds good. There's a science behind it, and why you are who you are, and why the makeup of who you are is of a supreme existence, because no one has the divine mind that you have. In order to obtain this, they call it etheric seeds that you pull from, that you call your mind. You pull from these etheric seeds and you say, these are my thoughts. These are pulled from a reservoir that your deities give you and influence you to do. That's why you are drawn to this affirmation. And some of you don't even know how you got here. You're like, how did I end up just being attracted? Because your ancestors guided you to this channel. They guided you to the Father through a publication. This is how it's designed. I can explain, I can go through countless of miracles within my very own existence that confirms how and why I am where I am, and I don't even know how I did, because the guidance, when you surrender to this, your deities, and you surrender your will, stop imposing your will on the divine design that they have for you. You always got to say, I need to do this, but I'll have to do that first. You know what you're supposed to do, but that second mind of yours, which is your will, throws off your guidance. And that's because of influence from outside forces, outside sources, from television, from computers, from companies, from music, from soap operas, from relationships, from desires, from once, from everything you can think of. Always it manifests itself within your will, and the will that you have is not the will that your ancestors have for you. They know what's best for you, right? Before you even can comprehend. They know what was best for you when they manifested you, when they allowed you to be conceived. Because you do know they allowed you to be conceived. You had to have the reasoning from them, which is a being, a creative being, in order to become who you are. You had to receive that guidance from somewhere. So what happens is the will, right? The energy, the matrix that you're a part of is the will of Panatharu, and the energy flow, the etheric from those planes. We talked about it in spiritual planes. Listen, go back to that episode. It was one of the earliest episodes. The etheric planes, those seats, it allows the energy from those worlds to permeate the physical body through those glands. And these seats, you'll see, they're taught by the master teacher, the correlation with the endocrine system that we just went over. Now, this energy, once it's distributed through the whole body, this is what part of your transformation. Because you as a deity, the ancestral line that, or being that wants to communicate, turn you inside out, the etheric being that wants to come out, you're keeping it at bay. People around you, your family, your children, your environment, your community, they're waiting for that deity to come forth. But you're so concerned about what people will think because, every little thing, your insecurities, they may think I'm crazy. They may think I'm this. They're not going to think you crazy. They're going to think, they probably in the back of their mind, hoping someone has the courage to bring forth the same questions they've been having their whole life. The questions that you think people are going to think you're crazy about, they're going to say, man, I was thinking the same thing. I'm so happy you brought that up. Try it and bring those conversations. Because the conscious matrix that we're talking about, the same deities are pumping that conscious information within the grid that all Nagaru around the planet is waking up to, especially in Africa. That's why Africa is growing the way that it's growing. And that's why people are being attracted to Africa. You don't know why. You're fighting what the media has placed and taught you about Africa. That's already pre-programming. You're fighting a virus. You have a virus in you about your own self. The virus in you has been spread in the media in the form of hate, lies, discrimination. African dirty. Africa is behind, underdeveloped, right? All of these things all of these things that you're fighting a virus. The same way a computer, your body as a computer fights a virus. A computer fights a virus. How? It tries to eliminate the virus, but if it doesn't have an antivirus, if it doesn't have Wusabat, if it doesn't have its original programmer, a computer was pre-programmed. You were pre-programmed. When you were born, the system through lights, computers are what? Are programmed through electrical impulses, through data. You are programmed through data. Babies are programmed through ABCs, 1, 2, 3s. Mary had a little lamb. You got Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. All of these through tones, you program a baby, a human computer. Computers are programmed the same way. Ask a computer programmer. How? Through binary codes. And these codes have a specific, calculation. And these are tones, the same way notes are read. So if the virus is off, or there's a virus within the base program, right? That you were given a virus and you had a base program of reasoning, the virus that you received was religion from other programmers outside of the main circuit programmer that you were born as or came out the box with. That's why when you pull a computer out, it has a basic program within it, right? And so Now, the father has introduced the antivirus within your computer. So you have to download the complete antivirus. And once you download the antivirus, it'll eliminate the virus of religious doctrines, of society, of misinformation, remove it, clean your slate. And the hardest thing for you is to say you don't know anything. Everything you've been taught is belief. That's the hardest thing for you to reboot yourself. You have to literally reboot to say, I don't know anything. Let me just unlearn all of this and get the facts. Those facts will align you, will place you in a proper network on the proper matrix that your ancestors have originally aligned yourself with. Then you can be fed the proper information that's given to you from the source, who is our Father in flesh. It sounds, doesn't it? Isn't it reasoning? That's what reasoning is. It makes sense because this is what the science of reasoning is. Now, the Father teaches that it correlates now. Okay, so let's move forward. Remember, you have, he said in verse 35 of the Sacred Ash dimensional link, he says, remember, each of you have Tasu Kamanu, which is your 9 Ogdoads, not for clarity. So which is your 9, he said, for clarity, the ovaries, right? The ovaries, the females, the second Nashat Katat or seat is of the matrix is your peripheral nervous system. Let me back up. The first one is your ovaries, females, and testes for males. This is your first seat. This is your first connection to the etheric world. This is where the reproduction part of you come in. This is where your deities are born out of. That's why proper sexual science is through DNA, right? There's a genetic science that allows you, that permits you or informs you to mix in with the proper genes in order to perfect the seed that comes from this particular gland. And that is controlled by a specific deity. And that's why in your chants, you see the deity of birth, right? And they're responsible for what seeds come through. And if the proper seed comes through because you're mating and having sex at the right time, not out of necessarily over lust. Some lust is okay, love is okay. It's a balance. But when you're overly lustful, you bring in the lower forces that brings in spirit beings from lower abodes, and a child is born that is unwanted or so physical and unruly, and it's not in tune with natural nature. You can force a seed that's not supposed to be here. And that's why it's a bunch of mixtures and people that's going crazy because they're mixed in with a bunch of seeds. This seat of the ovaries and the testicles, you have to practice and use it in a proper perspective and have sex in a specific season when it calls for it by natural nature. And that takes time to develop because most of the society is based on sexual promiscuity and having sex out of due season and just for the fun of it. And so you don't really know the cycles of the sexual activity, which you'll learn in Wu Sabat. We have sexual, it's the word sexual, the word, it's a patrak, sexual commandments. You can find that as well. Just email if you want to know about that. So the second Nashat Katat contains the matrix of the peripheral nervous system and the adrenal glands, which are located at the top of the kidneys. This is your fight or flight. Adrenaline is responsible for fight or flight, and it gives you your superpowers. It can literally make you into stone. It gives you energy that allows you to lift cars in a place of danger. Your child is in danger. A car that rolled over her leg or stuck on it. You can move a car. You can bend steel. You can run incredibly fast. You can do all types of deity type activities because of adrenaline. That's from your hormones. That's from a specific seat that's given to you or connected through your ancestors, right? This is a part of your connection. So adrenaline, those glands, that's why you hear about it. It's not something that's just biologically unexplainable. The Father explains it. This third seat, Nashat Katat, contains the matrix of the central nervous system and the endocrine gland, the pancreas. The pancreas has an endocrine function by its releasing juices directly into the bloodstream. It affects insulin by decreasing the concentration of glucose in the blood in order to reduce blood sugar levels and allows the body cells to use glucose for energy. 4. The fourth Nashat Katat is the thymus. The thymus produces progenitor cells that mature into T cells, right? This is your immune system. The T cells are used by the body to help destroy infectious and cancerous cells. This is how your diseases are cured. So when you see the father on sitting in a lotus position, right, with and on the book Science of Creation, you'll see these glands light up. This is one of those glands that's sending the healing energy. The healing energy activates or amplifies the T cell production, right? And it amplifies, which amplifies your immune system, which allows you to kill and cure diseases. So it's not a far off science. This is in Wu Sabat. This seat is responsible for that. Once your body is able and stimulated to produce extra immune system, everything in your body all of the diseases will be eliminated. This is why our ancestors were able to maintain a clean, healthy body. Then you have the fifth is the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is a butterfly-shaped endocrine gland that wraps around the throat and controls every cell of the body. It secretes the hormone calcitonin or T4, thyroxine, and tetradothironine, right? T3 or T2 and T3, which is triiodithyronine, into the bloodstream. These hormones control the rate in which cells and organs turn nutrients into energy and the amount of oxygen in cell use. Once this gland is amplified, the food that you take in, the healthy food, it multiplies the nutrients. So along with the fourth seat, the fifth seat comes into play because once the immune system is boosted through that seat, you see the seats rising. The fourth seat allows the nutrients that you partake, the herbs, the vitamins, the right diet, it amplifies the nutrients to make sure the cells are fed after the immune system eliminates the diseases. The food that you take in, this fourth seat amplifies the nutrients so your body can be healed and come into a healthy, harmonious state. All of them working together. I hope you follow me. It's very clear. The sixth seat, right, which is the sixth Nashat Katat, is the hypothalamus. It's a small region of the brain that is located near the pituitary gland, and its function is as several releasing hormones regulating body's temperature, controlling appetite, managing sexual behaviors, releasing hormones, regulating temperature, controlling appetite, managing sexual behavior, and emotional responses. So that allows your body to maintain a certain amount of control over itself after the healing process. So all of these seats align. The seventh is the pituitary gland, is the size of a pea. It protrudes at the bottom of the hypothalamus and the base of the brain. And then you have the pineal gland. So all of these glands, which is your third eye, that's the one that receives the information and sends information. Once your body becomes whole in that manner, once you cleanse yourself inside out, your seats are aligned, they become amplified, your third eye opens up, you're able to receive all of the information that you as an authority from your ancestors are supposed to have. I hope that is clear. So that may be just part one of the creation story. Now, we've covered a lot and we've been on almost 3 hours. If y'all want to continue, we can continue. But I know there was some questions that we had, but I did want to talk about the reasoning part because Nuwapu is something that you all should understand. That reasoning is something you have to begin to develop more within your own self. It's not something that you can be taught. It's something that you have to amplify in how you process thoughts. All thought, you have to distinguish what thoughts are entering into your mind. And not all thoughts are to be entertained. Thoughts are like objects. Matter of not like objects, thoughts are objects. And as objects, all objects are not healthy. Some objects are trash. You have all types of things that exist within societies. So when an object enters, you have to examine it. This is reasoning. The Nuwaupians, I'm speaking to you all, those that are listening, that are just learning about your spiritual science. The thoughts that enter, you have to determine, are they beliefs? Are they delusions? Are they conclusions? Are they assumptions? Are they emotionally driven? There's many types of thoughts, and how you process them is on you. How you process the thought is not on anyone else. So no one can make you feel anything. No one can be responsible for what you said. No one can be responsible. These are mechanisms that takes the responsibility of you being a God in control of your life and in control of your emotions, control of your mind, and to put it on someone else. It's easy to do that because then you'll never grow. Oh, it's because of how I was raised. It's because my wife is likes this or does this that I can't do this. It's because my husband is responsible for this. This is the reason it's because I'm in a job. It's because you're always blaming people for your condition. And once you eliminate that and understand that, how you process thought and how you digest it falls under basic thinking patterns that you have to align yourself with, or you will be in the world of beliefs, assumptions, delusions. You'll be all over the place with your thoughts. So you have to stick to the realm of reasoning with your thought process. And I'm going to go over this to end this lecture, right? So we don't go over too long. I'm glad you all are staying tuned. I love the fact that people are paying attention. Pattern recognition, yes. When you meditate, aren't you supposed to light the candle from the pineal gland down? What do you mean pineal gland down? There's many ways of meditation. There is no specific way. That is a practice, focus, which is the candle, the reason you use a candle, but not all candles. Oh, light these chakras. Okay. Okay, so as a question, I see you. Okay, so reasoning, reasoning is you have to stick within the realm of reasoning for your own mental health. I'm talking about mental health here. Mental health is the reason why people are all caught up in this gossip. A lot of people are sick because they've taken in so much poison. It's a lot of our family, a lot of our nation, a lot of our people have taken in so much poison that they don't know how to eliminate it out their system because they drunk of it and it became a part of their cells. Your cells have memory. They can remember trauma. Your genes have memory. They remember all of the things you intake, all the tones and sounds you hear, whether you accept it as true or not. Once you take it and you act upon it, it's programming you to act upon thoughts that are not in the realm of reasoning. This is why it's so hard for people to get out of belief systems, because their genes have been programmed to accept beliefs and they act upon these beliefs. So it's not your thoughts that's acting, it's your body that's now moving in a way of belief systems, and you don't even have to think about it. Right? This is why a person, when something is about to happen, they'll yell, Jesus. Like, you were taught that that's the person that can help you, right? If you weren't taught that, if you were taught Apple, you would say that. So when you hear people respond in these ways, they'll say, thank God, right? I lived. Or thank Jehovah. These are programming. I'm just using that. It's millions of examples. I'm just saying the genes respond in a way that has, because of the programming of belief, is difficult to eliminate. So you have to take the time to work on the thoughts of how reasoning. Now, there's types of reasoning. Let me just, so you'll know what reasoning is. Let me understand it. When the Father says, as a Nuwaupian, we deal with reasoning. Let's define reasoning. Reasoning is defined as logic, a systematic study of principles, the criteria and criteria and methods of correct inference, argumentation, and valid thought. Now, what is argumentation? Argumentation is the reason process of advancing supporting, modifying, and criticizing claims to influence an audience, to reach an agreement, building a structured case using claims, evidence, and reasoning to justify positions rather than asserting an opinion. Inference is a logical conclusion or conclusion, explanation, or interpretation based on evidence, data, and overstanding, reasoning rather than direct observation, bridge between raw and understanding. Raw data, it's a bridge between raw data and understanding. Now, the types of reasoning, I hope that's, I just wanted to get you that quick definition. It's a logic and a systematic study. Reasoning is a study. You're studying thoughts. You're studying what thoughts are, if they are reasonable, if they are factual, if there's evidence behind it. It's not just thinking. Stop saying, I'm just thinking. You have to learn how to think. Just like you had to learn how to walk. You had to learn how to talk and what to talk about. You had to learn how to drive. You had to learn how to eat properly. Still, some people don't eat properly. They don't chew their food enough. Some people just bite and swallow. You're not eating properly. You still are learning. So don't think you've learned because you got gray hairs and you learned everything. Don't think you've learned everything because you're 18 like society teach you. No, you have to learn how to think. And there's only one being on this planet that has taught us how to think. There's only one, and that's it within the actual facts. Because no one has ever taught you how to think factually. Right? So the process of thinking, there's a method or criteria of thinking. There's types of reasoning: deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning, and abductive reasoning. They also had syllogism, which is a type of reasoning. I'm just going to cover these four real quick, and we'll kind of close up, because this is all a part of creation. I mean, it's a part of your brain matter. That's reasoning. Reasoning creates everything in this world that you see that has been created came out of reasoning, because you had to reason out. It makes sense to do this. It makes sense. It's logical to create a chair, because when a person is tired, they want to sit, and chairs are support sitting. It's logical to create a car or design a car in order to get a place faster, because things are developing. It's millions and probably billions of ways that things have been created in natural nature and out of unnatural nature, right? Or not say not unnatural nature, made from natural nature. And natural nature is made or created through reasoning as well, from the mind of Atum. The sun, all of the existence of the material world is manifested through reasoning. So the process of deductive reasoning is deriving specific conclusions from general premises. A lot of people make conclusions on general premises, and it's not always correct, the conclusion, but the general premises is mostly okay. One example. This is one of the examples of deductive reasoning. Deductive reason is the example given: all young boys wear shorts, right? Larry is a young boy, therefore Larry wears shorts. Yes, it would make sense if the conclusion is because Larry is a young boy, Larry wears shorts, right? That would be logical, and the conclusion would be correct if the presumption that all young boys wear shorts was true. So that's deductive reasoning. Let me go over that again. You derive specific conclusions from general premises. This is an example. Read the example. All young boys wear shorts, right? If a person says all young boys wear shorts, or all young girls wear skirts, right? All young boys wear shorts. Larry is a young boy. So the general conclusion would be, okay, Larry wears shorts. He's a young boy. He wears shorts. That conclusion is correct if the premise was factual. All the time, premises are not factual. So just because you come to a conclusion based on a premise doesn't mean that your conclusion is correct. It's only correct if your premise is factual, right? Okay. Deductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning. I see your question. Y'all want to get into the freedom? Or we could come back to this. We can talk about the freedom. Yes. Okay. His release. Okay. So we have methods. A lot of times people, this is what I found. and I'm gonna speak on this on the Father's freedom. A lot of times, I'm not saying you, I don't know you, brother. So I respect the question if it's a genuine question, right? A lot of times people say, right, um, so what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing to get Dr. Malachi Z.K. York home? And then I'm looking like, what are you doing? Are you involved? Have you set out any plans to help? It becomes a critical thing when a person on outside looking in. I'm not saying that's you. What I'm saying is we have a method of how we're going to do it that I'm going to address next month in March. But certain things have to be put in place and it has to be organized globally. So this is what I wanted to say. Since you're interested, everyone that's interested, email me because we have a campaign coming up. And that campaign is a now or never campaign. It's a voting campaign. It's going to be explained. I explained it in episode 6. There was a sister that mentioned it. I hope she emails me because I've been trying to get in contact with her. I can't contact with her, but we're looking for people that want to be involved and want to help. Email, and I'll make sure I'll put you down when it's time for us to have our international global meeting. Then you'll all be involved. If you're sincere about it, you have a place, right? You can be involved and you can help. Question: are we the oversoul? Do we communicate? Are we the oversoul, or do we communicate with the oversoul? Will the oversoul communicate with you as a separate being, which comes into yourself to become one? That's a good question. Now, I got hit with different questions. Y'all taking my mind to different areas, right? If you asking me about the freedom, then I'll focus on that. If you want me to address about the oversoul, then I'll have to address that, and it's another conversation. But because you addressed the freedom, let me address that first. Email me about that, and we'll give specific details in a freedom fight episode, and we're going to talk about the real conspiracy and the freedom fight. We don't even really have to talk about we can touch the conspiracy, but we're going to talk about his freedom and how we all can assist, or how you all can assist, and how you all will assist. Because I know every last one of you can assist by your voice. If you're interested, you can be a part. And we're going to vote. Again, there's a global vote coming up. No one can tell you you can't speak up for your president, for your spiritual master, for your teacher, whatever he is to you. You want to assist getting him out. The legal proper way is a vote. And I'll explain it in detail. I explained it in episode 6. Please, someone put episode 6 in the chat. Right? A nation identified, right? So people understand exactly. You have to go over those older episodes so you can keep up. We're in episode 15, so we covered a lot. So the question about I'll address that. We are about the 3-hour mark. I didn't talk 30 minutes before, and then 2 hours and 30 minutes now. I try to keep the lectures to 3 hours. Now, there's a lot of updates we would like to talk about. In the next, stay tuned for episodes 16, 17, 18, and 19. There's 4 more episodes that's going to open the door for the Father's freedom. And as we march up, those that are keeping up where we're going, the 19 episodes, we all should be prepared to go vote and free the Father in our legal method in a way that's for our nation as a whole. Okay? So that's priority. I'm not just here talking and teaching and going over this actual facts without any let's say results. We want results from this, and the results is the freedom of our Father, and he's expecting us to do it. He gave us all of this. It's our time to make sure we give back and make sure we build our nation because we're responsible for it. No one is going to do it. It's a do-it-yourself a solution. No one is going to come help you, remove you from the devil's grips. No one is going to come assist you. We have to do it ourselves. And you are the deities, the gods on a planet. No matter what you have found yourself, you can be a Moor, you can be a Hebrew, you can be whatever you found yourself in. It doesn't take away from who you are as a deity, as a true God on the planet, and a Nuwaupian. You are a Nuwaupian. whether people overstand it or not, over time, you'll begin to see that this is how you think. So, any other questions? I hope that was clear. I said a lot. We got cut off for a little bit. So, I don't know how the upload will be. I don't know how long I was cut off. How long was I cut off? Maybe 3 minutes? 5 minutes? What was that? How many minutes was I cut off? Was those that were on? Maybe 5 minutes. It's okay. But any questions? No questions? Okay, so episode 16 is going to be on the 9th. Oh, I'm going to tell you, keep on the lookout for the actual facts. There's a production coming from Takoradi to Boston. There's a new documentary on Dr. Malachi Z.K. York being filmed right now on the family line in Africa, in Takoradi, the Western region, right? All of the history of the father, his birth, my grandmother's birth, my grandmother's time here in Africa, my grandfather's time, David York's time, how the father came to America, the sister city of Takoradi in Boston. All of it is going to be made clear within the in this documentary. So be on the lookout. So the email, you was out for about 10 minutes. Wow. Okay. The United Nuwaupian or the United Nubian Nation. Inductive. Okay. Oh, I didn't. Okay. Inductive reasoning. I'll do that for you, Divine Alignment. Deductive reasoning. Okay. Yeah. Because someone cut me off right in the middle, right? Okay. Deductive reasoning is general assertions are made, allowing conclusions to be false, even though the original statement is true. Now, there's a paper I was looking for. Where did it go? Okay, so yeah, inductive reasoning. Okay, this is general. Abductive reasoning, inductive reasoning. They almost are the same, right? So abductive reasoning, inductive reasoning, general assertions made, allowing conclusions to be false, even though the original statement is true. Okay, I think this example was if it was about college athletes. All college athletes are strong, and then you make the assertion that because a person is a college athlete, then they can't be weak. And that's what inductive reasoning is. It means that, okay, yes, the general assertion are made, but it is athletes are strong, but it doesn't mean that some athletes aren't weak. Right. So that is allowing conclusions to be false. So the conclusion that all athletes are not weak is false, even though athletes are generally strong. So it means that when you induce the reasoning behind, because an athlete is strong, that means they can't be weak. That conclusion is false, even though athletes are strong. So you can create a conclusion that could be false, even though the assertion is true. That's another type of reasoning. The third type is abductive reasoning. This type of reasoning produces the kind of daily decision making that works best with information present, which is often incomplete. This is what doctors use, like for diagnosis. Like most diagnoses have a general factual base assertion that is general practice. That's what they call it, general practice, right? And then because that general assertion or practice is applied, it doesn't mean that the conclusion always lines up with the general assertion. Like with a diagnosis, they say, well, you've been diagnosed with cancer. That means that in 3 to 6 months you will die. And they start give you they start treating you for chemotherapy and giving you all of this, these medicines, because they're asserting based on 90% of the practice most people did pass in 3 to 6 months. But that's not always conclusive with every outcome, because some outcomes, a percentage, live past years and even are cured from cancer. So that's the type of reasoning, abductive reasoning. So within these reasoning boundaries, there's another one called syllogism, right? Syllogism is this, is a form of deductive reasoning that two statements reach a logical conclusion. Okay, every A is B, and then another could be this C is A. So you have two statements in syllogism. Every A is B. And then another statement says this C is A. That means that this C is B. Because if you say every A is C, pardon me, every A is B, and then you say this C is A, if every A is B and this C is A, that means this B is also C, or this C is also B. That is syllogism. It's like what detectives do. If you were here at 5, right? This person was here with you at 5 o'clock in your alibi. That means that if this person says that that same person was here at 5, then someone is lying. That means that this is actually wrong, or this person is wrong. Then no one has the truth. These are syllogisms and reasoning aspects that your mind goes through with all information. So you have to know where your thoughts are being aligned with, and what reasoning you're using to come up with the decision making that you make every day. So those are, and it's actually called cognitive science of reasoning. This is actually a science. It's the study of how people reason, the process of drawing conclusions to inform how people solve problems and make decisions. That's a whole other lecture. I'm sure we can get into that. But I just wanted to do that for you, divine alignment, because you asked, and you're always welcome to ask questions. So anyone else? I've been talking. Y'all don't get tired of hearing me talk? I appreciate you tuning in, because the actual facts are so beautiful. So I thank you all for subscribing. Please subscribe. Please share. Make sure make sure and tune in for our next episode. So I'm going to conclude. Okay, let me read some of these questions before I go. It says, we must understand what self-determination is, and we must in real time be about the business of nationhood and stop waiting on somebody. People are not scared. Don't start beating people up. People are not scared. We just have to have guidance. We needed someone to give us the right direction. A lot of times we start beating each other up. That's abusive to us. We say we don't do this and we don't do that. We know we don't do certain things, but we have that guidance now. And our guidance is here to give us the right direction. So being scared is sometimes, is reasonable, because some people are afraid of the unknown, and that's understandable. So we just have to be in a proper platform and a proper space to give those who are fearful the right information, to give those who are unaware the right information and right knowledge, so they can be clear. Everyone is not as strong as the soldiers on the front line. Some people, some children and women are scared. Some elders are afraid because they don't know the outcome of what's taking place. They don't see what's going on in the world. But we have the guidance from our Heavenly Father in flesh that we can carry out the mission and do what it takes. And so once we're guided on the right path and focus on what we can do together, which is voting, right? Let me type in it. I was supposed to do this in the beginning. Let me give you all my email real quick. It's in the okay, and I can pin this, I think, right? All right, so take it down real quick. It's at the top, UnitedNubianNation at Gmail. No Moorish constitutional convention. We not Moors in that sense. We have a president. I understand you have your agenda, my brother, my good brother, but that's not what we're dealing with nationhood. We have the Nuwaupian nation. We have our president, right? And we're voting for him. If you want to vote, you're more than welcome. But don't come misinforming our people. I just explained Nuwaupian. That's our nationality. Yeah, I don't know if you want to get into a sparring match. Don't do that. Oh, okay. Ray Run, well noted for the children in Ghana, for sure. The Dr. Malachi York Foundation. We still do that for the children. I'll give you an update on that as well. Thanks for those tuning in. We have a lot to do. Um, okay, brother, that is not national. Okay, see, that's what I'm saying. You wanna be contentious, and you don't. You wait till 3 hours. Been talking 3 hours. Yeah, you think it's not a nationality. All right. So I already covered this. I can cover it again, but don't say what's not a nationality and you don't know what a nationality is. It's just impossible for you to say. No one can go around others and say you're not a national of China. You're not a national of Japan. You're not a national of Zimbabwe. Only American Negroes do that. They mentality. They do that. They go around telling people what they're not. But you don't go to the European and tell them they're not from Serbia, right? You don't go to them and tell them you're not Afghanistanian. You don't go to France and tell them you're not French. You only come to us and start telling us what we're not. And that's what creates division. Right? I'm just saying the what you're doing is you're creating. I know the oversoul. I got you, Apex. Matter of fact, when I answer that question, I'm going to give you all wise, right, and exact information. I have to dive into a few of the publications to give you references. I don't know everything off the top of my head. I know the Father has taught us a lot, and I try to do my best into answering questions, right? And I'll do my best. So you said okay, let me get to this guy. You said show me Nuwaupian 300 years ago. That you're making the point. You're making the very point that I was explaining to you. I said you always want to go make reference to someone else's books of what we was called, and then you'll feel right secure, or you'll feel satisfied that you found it in their books about who we are. No one can tell us who we are except us. That's why the Father has told us as Nuwaupians what it means. So what books are you reference to? Show us what Nuwapu is. This is in our ancient Semitic language. Show me where Moorish is 400 years ago. Right? Because I already addressed that. Moorish is not a nationality. A Moroccan is a part of a nationality. You're not a citizen of Morocco. I know Noble Drew Ali did a job, but you have to graduate out of that. So when you say I'm a Moor, Moorish is just a Berber, someone who converted to Islam. And I went over that in episode 4. It was Berbers or groups of people who the Arabs had moved across North Africa, and they settled in what you call Morocco and other spaces in North Africa when they were being colonized by the Arabs in the Islamic slave trade. And you picked up the word Moor, which is a description of a people. It's not a nationality. It's not. You could say, oh, Moorish is nationality. You don't go to Morocco. I've been to Morocco, and they're the most racist people on the planet. They don't even like black people. They don't even like y'all. Y'all be trying to say, oh, I'm a Moor. You go there, and they'll say they treat you like a slave. So stop that. No, because there's no ISH, Moorish. That means you're like. ISH. Look at the suffix ISH. All right, you just want to argue. You just want some attention. You will be in your own platform talking. Get out of here. Yeah, so I just had to delete them because they come in when they don't have a platform and try to dictate what we doing on ours. Hey, so all of the questions, hold your questions over. So this Apex, I got you. I'm going to answer. What is your take on the FBA program? I have to look into it. FBA, what is that an acronym for? Y'all want to keep me here, so I'm going to stay here with y'all for a minute. But what is FBA? Tell me what's the acronym for? Question, brother. What's your? Yeah, let me know what you mean by that, trendsetter. Yeah, that guy was he was outrageous. I mean, I tried to be cool and see and talk to him, but I know their agenda. Sometimes when people come in, what is going on with Dr. York's release? You're not really into Dr. York's release. You just want to question people so you can try to dictate and critique them and make and abuse. Moors abuse people. They love abusing because the Arabs taught them how to do that. The Arabs taught these Moors how to abuse blacks. In order to be a Muslim, in order to be of their accepted by them, they have to talk down on American Negroes, talk down on the Africans of the diaspora, talk down on people who they claim are not identified, and it causes it's just Arab abuse being perpetrated through them, and they don't see it. That's why you don't know the law, brother. We know the law. You don't have this. You're not a national. You don't have your own paper. You don't have a convention. You don't have a. They always talk that, and it's abusive. I know their mentality. They just picked up their slave masters mentality. That's all it is. Anytime our people begin to abuse others and to try to get them to convert and talk negative, the Hebrew Israelites do the same thing. When they do with their God, they talk down, make you feel guilt and shame and abuse so you can be under their footstool so they can keep you as a slave mentally. We know the game. That game is over. Foundational Black Americans. I don't know much about them. I heard them. I heard about them. I know y'all see our flag. Y'all enjoy the flag. Y'all see the new flag? Look at that. I had to be the first in Ghana, the first on the continent with it. That thing's beautiful, right? You see Yanun there. That's what that symbol is, the double unctui. This is our religious flag for the religious people. You see? Nuwapu. That's Sabbatic. And I placed it here. You may see the different symbols. And these are the colors of. It happen to be the colors of Ghana too. You like the garb? We do it big over here. We represent our culture. Oh, that's what I wanted to read. Baba had mentioned. Give you an update. He says, this is an update. He says, people without a culture do not exist, or their actions will be forgotten in time. He said, people without a culture do not exist, or their actions will be forgotten in time. He says, people with a language. Yes, we're going to have these. We're going to have these available for you all once the site opens. That's why I said email. Right? It says a people with a soul. It's beautiful, man. I just really love it. Yeah, look at that. Wow, the colors are vibrant. Somebody take a screenshot and send this to me. I don't know how to take a screenshot on this. Wait, maybe I do. Let me check. Can I take a screenshot? Oh yeah, I can. I got this advanced computer and don't know how to take a screenshot. Well, you can do it. I'll pose. Hey. Oh, thanks for all of the yeah, y'all, man, y'all did good. I appreciate this. For the children, I love it. Become a member. You all can become a member if you want to assist. Right? Okay, email me if you want to know about the flag. Of course, shipping from Ghana, it's a little, it costs a little bit, but Streambles, okay, it says, brother, you got to get Streamlabs so you can multi-stream. You really? Well, tell me about it. I can multi-stream across what? Facebook, Instagram. I'm supposed to be on TikTok too. I can't do. I try to do a lot. It's a lot to do. I try to keep up with y'all. You need a team. All my tech guys, email. If you want to help, email. You want to be a campaign manager, email. We nation building. I'm just giving you the information. Y'all want to be a part, you got to help. You got to do your thing. Email me. You want to help? Do it. I'm all for it. Whatever's going to advance us, whatever's going to grow us, whatever's going to get our father out. I'm going to put the vote in. You going to vote? Cool. Email me tonight. You'll vote. We'll vote. We're going to vote for 19 days. You're going to have an in-house. You're going to be able to vote online. You're going to be able to send in your vote, mail it in, and you're going to be able to bring it in and cast a ballot to one of your closest bookstores. That's how it's going to be done. Email me tonight. I want y'all, if y'all want the publications, Ayotai, email me. I answer all emails. I do my best. If you want books, email. If you want answers about the vote, you want to be a campaign manager, email. The Now or Never campaign, you want to design graphic designs for the hats, the t-shirts, you want to register people. I need people to be registered. Y'all got to go out and get people to register to vote. These people have to vote. They have to register first. So they got to name and emails. They get the registration. They accept Dr. Malachi York as their president. They fill out the form. They register, mail it in. We got a lot of things that's going to unfold this year. I'm working night and day. I'm working on the documentary for us, the United Nuwapian Nation website for voting, and all of the information that you need to be a national. We're working on the land. We're working on, obviously, the Actual Facts podcast and the channel to keep the doctrine going. And most importantly, we're working on the legal for the father. So any assistance that you all give, I'm more than happy to take, because no one can do it by themselves. A nation is not built by one man alone. The Father needs all of our involvement because he loves you all. He came here for you all. So that's our job. Any other questions? Okay. Email me for AO Tire. We'll talk about Imam, Ancient Mystic Order. Those schools are not necessarily going on, but you can email. Question that all black folks about to unite globally. Yeah, they're about to unite globally. Yeah, yes, we are. We're about to do it. You'll see. Watch what happens. You're going to see what happens this year. You can strip your videos and upload audio podcast. Oh, okay. Show me how to do it when you email me. I like to put them up. I'm just looking at your emails. Question: are we the oversoul, or do we communicate with the oversoul? Okay, again, to your question, right? I'm going to get your question. I know you put it in there. Let me tell you again. I'm going to answer you, but I'm not going to answer right now. I'm going to make sure that I answer you, but I need all of the public. You know, I make reference to the Father's publications. I just don't start talking and then giving you information that is not confirmed. So I want the sources so you can have it, so you can actually read it yourself. We believe in unity among black folks, whether exactly, we all over Caribbean, Africa. Let's do it. I've been live probably 3 hours. Why you ask? Do I look tired? I'm not tired. I'm not. I'm off the lecture. I'm just listening to you all, or listening to your. I'm trying to answer a few questions. I rarely have like a lecture where we interact. I'm always talking and building. Oh, you late? Oh yeah, nah, yeah. I've been on since this is about 3.5 hours. Actually, I went out for a minute, 5 minutes after 30 minutes, and then I came back on. I've been going on for about 3 hours. So you probably have to catch the upload. It'll be posted. But yeah, we have some other episodes. I hope you all checking out the other episodes. But with that, I think we're good. Any other questions? What about the blacks who sold their soul to the devil? Do we unite with them? They can't unite. They won't be able to. People who sold their soul to the devil, it's difficult for them to restore their soul. If they don't, it's difficult to restore it, because they have to go through a lot of transformation. And once you're a devil, you become a black devil, then, and if that's your nature, that's who you are. So it's only for those with like minds. Yeah, a lot of our people, so you see what's happening to them. They're falling off. Raul Duswa. What can you say about this? What is that word? Okay. Let me answer those questions next go. It's getting late. I want to end it. Think about this. I'm 5 hours ahead of y'all. So wherever you are, I'm in Ghana. I'm 5 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. And I think I spent enough time on the lecture. But these other questions, I'm gonna take note, and then the next episode I will address. So I appreciate you. Okay. Until next time, enjoy. Email me so we can stay in communication. Wado.